Welcome to this 120 Agile practice question video. Now, this 120 practice question was part of a mock exam for my PMI-ACP certification prep course. You can check the link below for that. But you can also use this to study for PMP, since PMP also includes Agile concepts and the Agile mindset. I'm Andrew Ramdial, and I've helped over 600,000 people pass their certification exams, and I'm also Amazon's best-selling author for the PMP exam prep. So if you guys are going to find value in this video, and if you appreciate all the work and you can see how long this video is, it would greatly help us if you can give the video a like and subscribe to the channel. It would really help us out a lot. And it doesn't cost you anything, but it does help us to produce more content just like this. So with that in mind, guys, did you click subscribe yet? Please do. Did you click like yet? Please do. With that in mind, let's get started on all these questions. All right. So the first thing up we have question 1, and we got a long one all the way to 120. Question 1. Midway through development, a compliance officer reminds the Agile project manager that the project must meet strict data privacy regulations by launch. The team hasn't yet addressed these requirements and is planning to implement them all at the end of development. What should the PM do? Add a final compliance sprint at the end of the release schedule to handle all regulatory tasks. Okay. Ask the compliance officer to submit a change request for review during the next planning cycle. C. Track compliance risks separately and monitor them until development is complete. Work with the product owner to integrate regulatory compliance work into the product backlog and deliver it incrementally. So the best answer here, by the way, if you should pause the video as I read the question and you can read it along with me. Because the moment I'm done, I'm just going to put the answer on. So the best answer here is going to be D, and here's why. So this is compliance work. It's still considered work, and it should still be part of the product backlog. It shouldn't just be something that the team is going to add into the end on their own. The only person that can add work is the product owner, and the product owner needs to add this in order for them to prioritize it. They may prioritize it somewhat in the beginning, middle, end. That's going to be up to the product owner, but it should be there. First of all, it's compliance, and it has to be there. It's not something that you're going to be handling. This is when you're adding it. There's no change requests in a Agile project. Track compliance issues separately and monitor them. No, they're part of the project. They're not tracked separately, making D best answer. Question 2. An Agile team is preparing for the next release planning session. A senior developer points out that a key third-party integration may not be available on time and could cause downstream delays. The feature relying on this integration is highly visible and central to customer satisfaction. What should the PM do? Reassign the developer to focus on less risky stories until the integration is resolved. Identify the integration delay as a risk, assess its impact, and plan mitigation strategy during the release planning. Remove the feature from the upcoming release and replace it with a lower risk enhancement. Escalate the concern to the executive sponsor and request directions before moving forward. This is kind of a tricky question because you have to read it carefully to understand that this is something that may or may not happen. So notice may not be available. So it may be available or it may not be available. So we want to understand that when something has a potential, it may or may not happen. This thing is considered a risk. So what you want to do is you want to be able to identify this as a risk and assess its impact and respond to it. You shouldn't just take an action against it, like reassigning the developers or removing the feature, and you shouldn't give away work. Part of the mindset is don't give away your work. You should fix your work yourself. So keep that in mind. If you have a question on your exam that says give away the work, let somebody else solve it, it's probably never the answer. Remember that. But when it comes to risk, identify risk, assess risk, and respond to risk is the general consensus on this. Question 3. While managing a distributed Agile team, a project manager observes delays in feedback loops and a growing misalignment between stakeholder expectations and project outcomes. Several stakeholders are missing meetings, and team members are unsure whether their updates are being seen or understood. What should the project manager implement to strengthen ongoing stakeholder communication and visibility? All right. Increase the number of formal stakeholder status report and require acknowledgements. B, schedule more frequent video meetings and require full attendance from all stakeholder groups. Assign a liaison to each stakeholder group to relay project outcomes and concerns. Use information radiators to make project progress goals and issues visible in real time. Okay, the best answer here, now remember, you got to think low tech, high touch. This is the best answer. Here's why. You notice several stakeholders are missing meetings. The team members are unsure whether their updates are being seen. This is keyword right here, and understood. So maybe the best thing here we could do is use more. Maybe we could use a task board, Kanban board, some kind of burn up and burn down charts would be best here. That way people can see the progress that's happening. You just don't want to increase meetings, as that may increase burden on your team. Or even video meetings. I mean, A and B is technically the same answer. Both of them are meetings. One is video. A liaison, you just don't want to just give away the work to somebody else to update them. I think, remember, think low tech, high touch to get this one correct. Question 4. A product owner is debating which prioritization method to use for backlog grooming. One stakeholder prefers Moscow and the other suggests 100-point method, while a third wants to use Kano analysis. The Agile project manager wants to keep the team moving without focusing on the method. What should the Agile PM do? Require the use of Moscow since it's most commonly taught method. Remind the team that the goal is a clear, agreed upon list of prioritized features, regardless of technique. Ask the team to vote on their preferred technique before proceeding. Combine all three methods to create a hybrid scoring system. Guys, the best answer here is you got to understand that whether you're using Moscow, 100-point method, or Kano analysis, the objective is just to come up with some kind of agreed list based on some kind of value system that they're going to be doing. You shouldn't just say, hey, go with Moscow or use something that they prefer, combine. There's really no combine. I'm not sure how you would combine all of those. But understand that the best answer here is to tell them, hey, regardless of whatever we go with, it's not one is not going to be better than the other. The best one is that's going to give us the list of prioritized features, making B best answer. Question 5. Midway through a complex project, the Agile project manager discovers that a major risk previously deemed low priority is now likely to impact the final delivery date. The team is currently focused and highly productive, and the delay isn't guaranteed, but it's possible. The PM knows the client expects on-time delivery and is weighing whether to wait for more certainty before bringing it up. What should the Agile PM do? Be transparent with the client and communicate the potential risk, even if the impact is still uncertain. Wait until the next sprint, when more information will be available to discuss possible schedule changes. Monitor the situation closely, but avoid raising an alarm unless the risk materializes. Work with the team to address the risk internally and only escalate if the mitigation efforts fail. The best thing here, this is going to go into part of the mindset where I tell you guys the best thing you can do is to be honest, always to communicate what is happening on the project to the actual teams themselves, to the actual stakeholders. So the client expects on time and is weighing whether to bring it up. So if you have something that's going to be late, let the client know, hey, there is a potential risk that this product will be late. Don't wait until the next sprint. Inform the client, all right? And don't avoid it. Anytime you're trying to push off bad news is not the answer. If you're when doing your exam, look at the choices. And if it seems that you're saying, okay, for me to do that, it's going to be hard on me because I'm going to have to, it's telling the truth. It's going to be hard on me. I might get in trouble. It's probably going to be the answer because sometimes the hardest thing is the right thing, which is A. Question 6. An Agile team is struggling to meet sprint commitments. During retrospectives, team members express confusion about task progress and dependencies, and newer members hesitate to speak up or suggest improvements. The Agile project manager wants to foster openness and continuous improvement while supporting team confidence and learning. What should the Agile PM do? Introduce a visible task board and invite the team to update it regularly during daily stand-ups. All right. Schedule additional one-on-one coaching sessions to help quieter team members feel more confident. Encourage the team to keep experimenting and not worry about failures as long as they deliver. All right. Ask the product owner to step in and clarify roles and dependencies in the backlog. All right, guys, the best answer here you are going to have, notice, foster open continuous improvement while supporting the team. What's the best thing here we can do is to do a task board. Invite them to update it regularly. This is probably going to be one of the best things you can do. You notice that you want to have open and continuous improvements. You want to support their learning. Team members, but the really giveaway to this answer is you notice it says confusion about task progress and dependencies. Okay, one-on-one coaching sessions is not going to help them solve this problem. Neither is encouraging them. And you should never ask someone to step in. Never ask somebody to step in to solve your problem. If there's a choice of giving away the problem to someone else, it's probably not going to be the answer. That's why I'm making A the best answer. Question. During a tense sprint review, a senior stakeholder blames the team for delays and dismisses their explanations. The project manager notices that the stakeholder reacts defensively and refuses to listen to feedback. What behavior zone does this situation exemplify? All right. Red zone, team misalignment zone, conflict escalation, communication breakdown zone. Okay, there's really just two zones that are out there. You have red zone and you have a green zone. The red zone is where people are defensive, they're resistant, they're blaming everyone, they're very combative. Is a red zone. Green zone is when they accept blame, they take accountability, they're listening to feedback. These really don't actually exist here. So the best answer here was red zone. Remember, you don't want people in the red zone, you want them to be in the green zone. Making A best answer. Question number 8. A team is preparing for the final release of a new product. Some stakeholders suggest waiting until all core functionality is built before delivering anything to customers, arguing that early releases might lead to confusion or rework. The Agile PM wants to support Agile principles while addressing these concerns. What should the Agile PM do? Agree to delay release until the product is complete to maintain stakeholder satisfaction. Add a separate testing phase at the end of the project to minimize potential confusion. Conduct a one-time pilot test before releasing the full product. Emphasize incremental delivery to get working features into a test environment early and gather feedback. I think this one here is pretty straightforward. As long as you understand the Agile mindset, the Agile mentality of releasing things as soon as possible and getting feedback as soon as possible, you should have gotten this one correct. Make indeed the best answer. You don't want to wait for something to be done, especially like a one-time test. Add a separate test. This is not something you're going to do, something the team should be doing. And you shouldn't delay the release. The faster we can get things out there, the faster we can get feedback. The faster we get feedback is the faster we fix things and see if we're meeting the customer's requirement. Making D best answer. Question 9. During a sprint retrospective, the team decides to experiment with a new approach to reduce the time spent fixing integration issues. They agree to monitor the results and make adjustments after the next sprints based on what they learn. What concepts does this approach best reflect? Servant leadership, Kaizen, continuous deployment, or sprint review? Well, this one here is continuous learning. The Kaizen is all about a continuous improvement, continuous learning approach. Servant leadership is more of a leadership mentality for a single person of how to manage a team. Continuous deployment is pushing out software on a continuous basis. And sprint review is reviewing what was done in the sprint. The only thing here that deals with them making improvements and learning is B, Kaizen. Question 10. A project manager wants to gauge how strongly the team supports a proposed change to the iteration schedule. Rather than asking for a simple yes or no, the PM wants a more nuanced sense of consensus and potential concern. What preparatory model does the project manager use? Simple voting, silent brainstorming, consensus workshop, or the fist of five? So you want something here. It's better, it's more than just a yes or a no, right? So it's not going to be like a simple voting. Brainstorming is more to solve issues. A consensus workshop is just to actually bring everybody together and say that's the way we want it. So you have fist of five. So the fist of five is going to be where you can have 5 levels instead of yes or no, which is just yes or no, something like that, or 0 on 1, yes or no. The other one, the fist of five, you'll have 5 different options. Sometimes you're going to say, well, I agree to that, or I somewhat agree to that, or I'm on board with this, somewhat on board, I really like it, I don't like it, I really don't like it, or I completely against it. So you have more of a in between, you have an end, you have a beginning, you have somewhere in between those things. Making fist of five, best answer. Question 11. A Scrum team is preparing to begin work on a new product increment. What should the team do before starting to ensure they have a shared understanding of when work is considered complete? Finalize the schedule for the sprint planning and stand-up meetings. Gain approval from the product owner for all upcoming user stories. Establish a shared definition of done that applies to all work. Assign developers to tasks based on their availability and expertise. Now you notice, to ensure they have a shared understanding of when work is considered done, for that to happen, they need to have a definition of done. So the definition of done tells the team, okay, when are we going to be finished? Like, what needs to happen for it to be done? Like, if they're making software, does it have to perform a certain way? Does it have to output a certain number? Does it have to do a particular task? How do we know that when we have finished producing that requirement? This is something that you're going to have to work with the product owner, the customers with, and the team to ensure they have a shared understanding. It's not about a schedule or gaining approval or assigning developers. Not because you gain approval from the product owner doesn't mean that the team knows exactly what needs to get done, or the team has a good understanding of the work that they have to get done. Making C best answer. Number 12. You're supporting a large agile program consisting of multiple cross-functional teams. Each team is following agile, but there's frequent delays due to miscommunication and lack of coordination between them. What should you do to improve alignment and collaboration across the teams? Assign a project manager to supervise the work of all teams and consolidate communication. Instruct all teams to follow the same agile framework and cadence for consistency. Identify inter-team coordination needs and establish a suitable structure such as Scrum of Scrums. Consolidate all teams into one central team to eliminate coordination. Now, there's one thing we know is when we utilize an agile, you don't want big teams. You want to keep, if you can have multiple teams working on a big project, it's fine. Then the best thing here to do is to set up something like a Scrum of Scrum. Use the different agile methods that supports large teams, scaled agile, and so on, or SAFe. So utilize the agile methods that supports bigger teams or larger teams would be the best answer here. Assign a project manager to supervise all works. That's not following the principles of agile. That goes against the whole concept of servant leadership. You don't want them all to follow, because not one framework is not best for all of them. They have different frameworks that they can use depending on what they're working on. That's a great thing about agile. You can change it up as needed. Consolidate all teams into one centralized team. This would be too much. This would be a giant team and it would go against agile principles. Making C best answer. Question. A new stakeholder joins an agile project during its early stages and expresses confusion about the team's flexible approach. The lack of a detailed upfront plan and the frequent changes in requirements. The stakeholder asks the agile project manager to explain how this approach still delivers value and maintains control over the project. What should the agile PM do? So you notice in this one here, expresses confusion, flexible team approach, lack of detailed upfront plan and frequent changes. This is everything agile is doing. Explain that Agile emphasizes collaboration. Respond to change and deliver work solutions incrementally. All right. Emphasize the importance of time box and iterative delivery as tools for managing project scope and risk. All right. Highlight that the Agile framework avoid upfront planning because requirements always change. All right. Share examples of past Agile projects that successfully handle change in requirements and produce value early. Now, this is a tough question because technically all of those answers are correct. They all pretty much, it's all true on what Agile. When you have a question where you have a lot of correct answer, like 100% correct, choose the answer that is broad and includes all of them. Because choosing one correct one is going to be like, okay, then this one is more correct than the other. Let's go with A here. You know why? Because collaboration, responding to changes, deliver working solution. So responding to changes, collaboration will include managing the scope, will include why we avoid upfront planning, because you know what? We always changing requirements. That's that responding to change. And yes, you don't necessarily have to go in and say, hey, you know, from previous projects. So let's just eliminate that one. But A basically includes B and C, making A the best answer. So always remember that when you have questions where the choices are very similar or they're all absolutely, you're 100% sure they're absolutely correct, go with the choice that includes all the others. Question 14. During an Agile project, the team receives regular feedback from customers that prompts adjustments to both the product direction and development process. The team responds by refining their backlog and adapting new techniques to better meet customer needs. What Agile behavior is the team demonstrating? Build in a shared vision to avoid conflict. All right. Maintain consistent velocity. Completing work exactly as planned. Embracing change and adapting both process and product direction. All right. What do we got here? This one here, pretty easy. You notice that it does say the team responds by refining the backlog and adapting new techniques. So what are they doing? They're embracing change. This is the great thing about Agile, is we're always changing those requirements. We are manipulating the way we do work almost every sprint, because in a retrospective we'll say, hey, we don't like this, or we should change this, things of that nature. So D is better the answer here. It's not just about, there's nothing here about a shared vision. They're talking about refining the product backlog, refining their backlog, could be their sprint backlog. Consistent velocity, we're not sure why this doesn't apply here, because they're talking about new techniques. Completing work exactly as planned during the sprint. That is true, but it does say you're refining your backlog. So that would eliminate that, making D the best answer. Question. An Agile project manager observes that the team is consistently delivering high quality work, but several members appeared overworked and they're regularly working late to meet the sprint goals. At the same time, the client is extremely pleased with the velocity and wants to maintain the current pace. The team hasn't voiced any concerns. Okay, so they have not voiced any concern. And their energy seems to be decreasing. And the burn down chart suggests they're taking on more than they can sustain. So what should you do? Adjust the team workload for the next sprint to create a more sustainable pace. Okay. Meet with the team, both the team and the client, to discuss balance and delivery with the team well-being. Acknowledge the client satisfaction and continue with the current pace unless the team formally raises concern. All right. Have a private conversation with the team to assess if they feel overburdened or are facing hidden pressures. Now, it's really two good answers. I'm going to eliminate two. You should not go in and adjust the sprint. That the team should be doing. And you shouldn't do nothing. You shouldn't just say, oh, everything is good, and let the team continuously. You know it's leading to a bad result in the end. So you're basically, should you meet with the team and the client to discuss it, or should you just meet with the team and to assess if they feel overburdened or challenging? Now, don't meet with the team and just see if they feel overburdened. We know they're overburdened. The thing is, it's not a sustainable pace. Part of if you're following certain things such as XP or extreme programming, we need to have a sustainable pace, and this is unsustainable. So the best thing here we can do is to meet with the client, meet with the team and say, hey, this is an unsustainable pace. How would we fix this? Making the best answer. Question. You're leading a product development initiative with multiple stakeholders requesting various features. To manage expectations and provide clarity on when features may be delivered, the product owner wants to communicate high-level plans without committing to specific dates. What tool or artifact should the product owner use? Sprint backlog, product roadmap, release burndown chart, product increment. Best thing here, guys, it's going to be the product roadmap. So the product roadmap is very high level. It doesn't really have any dates. It's just saying that this is going to come out, then this is going to come out, then this is going to come out. It doesn't have to have a specific date. Sometimes it could just say August 25 is going to have this. June 26, February 27 is going to have this. I'm talking years and those numbers, by the way. So it basically tells you what features or what features will be included in what release in the roadmap. The sprint backlog is a very particular thing. It's what they commit to. The release burn down is going to say what work hasn't. This is going to say what work we basically did or what is left. Product increment, this is just what we are releasing here. That has nothing to do there. So the best answer here was B. Question. A project manager, 17 by the way, is analyzing factors that influence the cost and success of software development using the Coco Mo Model, or the cost constructive model. The model indicates that people-related factors are dramatically more impactful than tools or processes. What conclusions to support? Process optimization is more valuable than individual skills. The right tool can compensate for skills gap. Software costs are primarily driven by automation efficiency. People factor have a greater influence on project success. Yes. In fact, it is a lot more. I forgot the numbers we covered in the video. I think it was 3 to 11. I think the people was like 11 and the other one was 3, something like that. Or it was 33 and 11, something like that. Any which way, the people factor is much more important than the tools. You can in the video I did mention this statement by saying you can have great people and bad processes and tools and they can output something amazing, but you can have bad people and the greatest processes and tools and end up with something really bad. So the people factor is one of the most important aspects of developing good software. Process automation is more valuable? No, not necessarily. People is more valuable than anything else. Question. A new Agile project involves several departments with competing interests. The product backlog contains a long list of features, and each stakeholder group wants their items prioritized first. To avoid conflict and create alignment, the project manager wants to involve everyone in a structured, collaborative prioritization. What should the Agile PM do? Ask the department head to nominate a representative to rank features. Okay. Use Moscow features to define what features are must-have or should-have. Facilitate a workshop using .vote and 100 point to distribute prioritization inputs among stakeholders. Decide the priority order based on features that are least expensive. So right off the bat, I know we're going to eliminate D without going even farther and really discussing more, because that's not your job. You don't prioritize. That's for the product owner. That's for the customers to do, not for you to do. The best answer here is not A or B. It is C. Here's why. So right now, everybody's saying that their feature is high prioritized. So if you use the Moscow and you say must have or should have, then everybody's just going to say it's a must have and it's not a should have. So not the best answer. But if you give everybody a point and they all put 100 point on their feature, it's not going to add up correctly. You know what I mean? So let's say you got 5 people. And this guy is going to put 100 point on his own, but nobody else is going to put 100 point on his own. So you get more of a distributed prioritization, and then people are going to have to know how to apply the number of points they have or the dots that they're given. So this here would be a better way than just using top of the list or bottom of the list, which is going to be that must have or should have. Ask the department head. No, everybody should be involved. We want people to be involved, not be pushed away. Question. During a planning session, two senior developers strongly disagree on which architect to use for a new feature. The project manager encourages both to explain their reasoning, helps them evaluate trade-off, and guide them towards a mutually agreeable solution. What skill is the PM applying here? Well, you notice, explain their reasoning, helps them evaluate, and guides them towards a agreeable solution. Best answer here is they're negotiating. All right. Why are you and how are you doing this? Now, you notice that, first of all, there is a disagreement on the architect to use for a new feature. They're given and taken here. Hey, you tell me what you want here. They're really not having a conflict. Like they're really not trying to kill each other in this one. It's not active listening. In this case, you're just listening. You're actively engaged in it. You're not just facilitating it and having them communicate. You're more directly involved in it. So you're more negotiating. You're helping them negotiate. What are you applying? You're applying the skill of negotiating. Now you notice, if you're saying, Andrew, I still don't get that. Well, the last part gives it away. Towards a mutually agreeable solution. The only time you guide people for a mutually agreed solution is you want to negotiate with them so the solution is good for both of us. Make and D, best answer. Number 20. During a sprint, the Agile project manager notices that team members are frequently interrupting each other to ask about the status of various tasks. Despite regular stand-ups, there is still confusion about which works are blocked or nearing completion. The team currently does not use any visual workflow. What should you recommend? Increase the length of the daily stand-up to allow for more detailed updates. Introduce a Kanban to make workflow visible, to facilitate continuous status. Schedule twice a day team meet check-ins to ensure information is regularly updated. Assign a team member to track progress, to track task progress. Best answer here, guys. You notice it tells you they don't have a visual workflow and you want that, preferably that low-tech, high-touch. So I think B here would be your best answer. You don't want to increase the meetings. That's what these are doing. That would, remember, meetings is considered anti-value. Assign a team member to track progress and send daily status emails. This here would give work here. A Kanban would do everything. Okay? They're frequently interrupting each other to ask the status. Well, in a Kanban, you don't need to ask for status because you'll know what they're working on. You'll know what's finished, what hasn't got done, but just by looking at it. This here will solve all the problems in this particular question, making B the best answer. Question. At the beginning of a retrospective, the facilitator notices that team members seem distracted and hesitant to speak up. To ensure the session is productive, the facilitator introduces an activity where participants identify themselves as explorers, shoppers, vacationers, or prisoners. What stage of a retrospective is this? Is this generate insight, gather data, set the stage, decide what to do? Best answer here, guys, is going to be set the stage. So these here are going to come later. This is something you're going to do in the very beginning of the retrospective. So people get to know each other. It helps to understand why people are here. Like, for example, if they identify themselves as a prisoner, then you realize that this person doesn't want to be here. They feel they're trapped here. Versus if they're an explorer, they're hoping to learn something here. So this here sets the stage for the entire retrospective. And then you do the others, like gathering the data, generating insights on the data you gather, and then deciding what to do. So those are going to come later in the retrospective. They can see the best answer. Question. A project manager wants to ensure that product development remains adaptive and feedback driven throughout the sprint. The team updates information radiators regularly, conducts stand-ups, and manages retrospectives without directions from a central manager. What key agile principle does this team best exemplify? Self-organizing team taking ownership of development and delivery, continuous deployment of working software to production, strict adherence to sprint planning as defined by the product manager, stakeholder-led prioritization of deliverables at the start of each sprint. Now this here is this is telling you perfect definition, good examples of a self-organizing team, because they're updating the information radiators themselves. They're doing the stand-ups. They're managing the retrospective without any direction. That means they're self-managing themselves. Continuous deployment is pushing out software. This has nothing to do with managing the team. They're not sticking to a strict plan. It's not defined by anyone. It's done by them. Stakeholder-led prioritization at the start of each sprint. That's more of what work they're doing. This here, they're more managing work, making A the best answer in this question. Question. An agile team has noticed increased cycle times and more work in progress than usual. They begin analyzing patterns in their metrics to determine if these changes indicate a deeper issue that can affect future performance. What type of metric analysis? Is this variance analysis, trend analysis, lagging, or qualitative root analysis? Best answer here is going to be trend. What are they? They're looking at what they're doing, and they're going to see what's going to happen in the future versus what happened in the past, lagging metrics. So if you're looking to predict what's happening in the future, look to see where the trend is going. They're looking for future performance. A variance analysis, just say how far they're off from where they should be. Qualitative root analysis, this is more of a risk assessment more than anything else. It can be the best answer. Question. During a review meeting, a stakeholder suggests measuring progress by tracking task completion and hours logged. The team has been focused on delivering functional features regularly. The stakeholder wants reassurance that the team is making good progress. What should the Agile PM do? Explain that in Agile, the primary measure of progress is working software that delivers value, not hours work or documents produced. Recommend tracking team effort by completed checklists and documentation milestone. Shift the team focus to meet sprints burn down targets, even if the features aren't fully functional. Suggest creating a detailed Gantt chart to show percentage completion of planned activities. Okay, best answer here is following the Agile value system. You got to remember the Agile 12 principles of Agile. And one of those principles is literally what it says here. We don't measure work based on how many hours we work or documents. We measure work on how much valuable work we're delivering. This is something you want to tell the client. You don't want for them to start using checklists or for them to start looking at particular, like how fast they're getting work done or creating a detailed Gantt chart that's showing percentages. Then they're not looking at delivering value. They're looking at more just getting the work done quicker. Because Gantt charts and things like burn down, burn up charts are more like schedule oriented things. Make it A, best answer. Question. During a sprint, a developer on an XP team realizes that their code may introduce a bug, but they're hesitant to speak up, worried that it might reflect poorly on their performance. What core value should the team introduce to encourage transparency and collaboration? Is it courage, simplicity, feedback, communication? For the team member to speak up, it would take courage. Simplicity means to simplify things, to make the process easy. Feedback is to get feedback from people, and communicate is just talking to each other, communicating with each other. When something is going wrong and you want help or you want to ask for help, sometimes it takes courage to ask for that help, and that's one of the core values there of XP, making that the correct answer, A. Question. A team member suggests that the developers work independently from the business stakeholders to avoid distractions and reduce coordination time. They propose using documentation and email updates to stay aligned instead of daily interactions. What should the Agile PM do? Approve the suggestion and allow the team to work without daily contact to improve focus. Recommend shifting communication to weekly status reports to minimize meeting overhead. Explain that Agile encourages daily collaboration between business people and developers to improve alignment and speed up feedback. Instruct the developers to communicate through a designated liaison who can summarize project changes at the end of each sprint. Best answer here is going to be correct. So we don't want to break this communication. We don't want to do what they're saying, because they're saying not to have stakeholders talk with team members, not to have them coordinating, and to use something that is highly technical. It's not face-to-face. It's not them communicating by talking. It's more just emails. This communication method is not good for Agile project. So we don't want to approve the suggestion. We don't want to just go to weekly status reports. And we don't want to just get a liaison. The best thing here is to explain to this person that that's not the way Agile works, basically. And we want them to communicate, because the more feedback and the more communication we get, the more likely the project will be successful. Making C the best answer. Question. During a retrospective, a stakeholder expresses concerns about the slow pace of the last sprint. Instead of reacting defensively, the project manager thanks them for the feedback, acknowledges the issue, and encourages a discussion on possible improvements. What behavior zone is this? Compliance zone, green zone, collision avoidance zone, constructive challenge zone. There's only one zone here that's actually real. The rest of them pretty much don't exist. I'm testing to see if you remember the zones. Remember, there's red zones and green zones. And in the red zone, you're defensive. You don't want feedback. You're yelling at everyone. You're upset. The green zone is when you are welcoming feedback. You're okay with the feedback. Making B the best answer. Question. A stakeholder questions why the team keeps adjusting priorities and deliverables every few weeks instead of sticking to the original roadmap. They're concerned that this signals poor planning. What should the Agile PM do? Explain that Agile discourages planning to avoid rework caused by unexpected changes. Clarifies that Agile recognizes software projects as a high rate of change and therefore puts more effort into responding to change rather than rigidly follow a fixed plan. Assure the stakeholder that all future work will be locked down to preserve the current plan. Emphasize that change requests will only be accepted if they come from executive sponsors and follow the formal change control process. The best answer here is yes, software. Remember, Agile was created because of software development. In fact, all the founders of Agile were software people. Agile discourages due to rework by unexpected. No, we don't. It doesn't discourage anything. Emphasize will only be accepted. We accept all changes. Assure that stakeholder all will be locked down. No, we change work as needed. The reason why we have a high rate of change is because we want to respond to changes. Part of the Agile values and principles. We want to respond to changes versus a fixed plan. But we welcome changes and we will produce something that you want. And even if you change it, we'll produce that too, making B the best answer here. Question. During a sprint review, the Agile project manager observes that many tasks are stuck in the in-progress column of the Kanban board, with only a few reaching the done column. Team member admits they're juggling multiple stories at once, but little is being completed. What should the Agile PM do? Implement a WIP limits to encourage focus and improve task completion rates. Assign fewer stories to the backlog to reduce team workload. Ask team members to document all reasons for task delays in the next retrospectives. Extend the sprint duration to give more time for work to be finished. Best answer here is going to be A is correct. So one of the things here, when you have a Kanban board, it's really important to limit the WIP, or the work in progress, right? You want to ensure that they don't work on too many things. When they're working on too many things, you'll never get anything done, as there'll be very little to no output, making A the best answer. You don't want to assign fewer stories to the backlog. Assign fewer stories to the backlog to reduce team workload. That is something that they do. You don't determine how much work they work on. Ask team members to document reasons. This is more of a dictatorship. You should be working with them, not just having them do that. And you cannot extend sprints. That's something the team does, not you. If the team needs a few more weeks, they'll determine that. All right. Question. An agile project manager is coaching a hybrid team that recently merged members from both traditional and agile backgrounds. During a workshop, one of the team members asks for help distinguishing between predictive, iterative, and incremental. What should the agile PM do? Explain that all three approaches have fixed requirements but differ in delivery times and costs. B, state that the main difference lies in team size, organizational maturity, rather than requirements, delivery, or goals. Clarify that predictive uses fixed requirements, single delivery. Iterative uses dynamic requirements and repeat activities for correctness. And incremental focuses on frequent smaller deliveries. Emphasize that predictive and iterative both aim for speed, while incremental ensures correctness through multiple deliveries. This is not a question of choose the best answer. This is John, choose the correct answer. Either you know the definitions or you don't, because this is the perfect correct answer. Predictive uses fixed requirements, single delivery. Iterative is basically a single delivery, but they keep doing that single delivery over and over and over until it's correct. And incremental is smaller deliveries. The rest of these are absolutely incorrect, as none of those make sense. Make sure you know the difference between them for your exam. 30. Should say 31. A product owner wants to help the team and stakeholder visualize how end users will interact with a new application. The team is building features based on user stories, but some stakeholders are struggling to see how the features fit together in the broader user experience. What should the project manager recommend to improve shared understanding? Develop a wireframe of the user interface. Create a detailed data flow diagram for all backend. Create agile modeling to create a use case diagram. Provide the stakeholder with a list of user stories sorted by priority. Best answer here is going to be C. Notice how the features fit together. So you don't want just a mock-up of a screen, like a wireframe. You know, a detail, this is for the back-end process. The user doesn't care about back-end, right? They just, user worry about what the front end looks like. Generally, the developers, the coders, they worry about back-end. Provides a list of stories, but this is not going to help them. They want to understand how it fits together. So you want to do a model where they can see, okay, they're going to go from this, they're going to click this button, they're going to go to this screen, then to this screen, to this screen, which was C would give you that diagram, that model that says, okay, this is how this particular software will work, making C best answer. Question. A team wants to improve the effectiveness of their retrospective action items. To ensure that the next goal they set is useful and achievable, they decide to make it specific, smart, measurable, attainable, relevant, and timely. I think I gave you the answer on that one. What principle are they applying? So this is called a SMART goal. You notice SMART, SMART goal. So every goal we have should be a SMART goal. It should be something very specific that we're looking for. We should be able to measure whether we have met it. It should be attainable. Never do a goal you can't attain. It should be relevant to the work you're doing, and it should be done in a timely manner. You don't want to do goals that takes incredibly long, like 50 years to do, or it's not relevant to your work, or maybe you're trying to become a multi-trillionaire, it's probably not attainable. And you have to be able to measure your progress to see if you're making progress. So this here would be called a SMART goal. This is not a question of choose the best. This is more choose the correct answer. So if you know the definition, you got this one correct. Question. A software development team using extreme programming has recently experienced a surge in late night work and burnout amongst developers. The project manager wants to encourage healthier working hours without sacrificing long-term delivery performance. What XP Practice directly supports this goal? Pair programming, refactoring, sustainable pace, or test-driven development? Best answer here is going to be sustainable pace. Yes, this pace of late night work can lead into burnout is unsustainable. XP suggests good hours. It suggests a good environment that they can consistently produce software or produce whatever product they're working on at a consistent pace, versus working late hours is unsustainable. Pair programming is checking code. Refactoring is fixing code. Test-driven development is writing a test before testing the code itself. Making C best answer. Question. A product owner is working with stakeholders to evaluate the importance of each feature request based on its expected return on investment. After ranking these features, the team uses those rankings to plan the sequence of development. What technique is a product owner using? Story mapping, risk-based prioritization, progressive elaboration, value-based analysis. Best answer here, value-based analysis and decomposition. Notice, evaluate the importance of each feature based on its expected return on investment. This is going to be some kind of value. After ranking, the team uses this to plan the sequence. So they're breaking it down a little bit. Story mapping is how it maps to certain features. It's not what they're talking about here. Risk-based, there's nothing here that mentions risks. Progressive elaboration is as time progresses, things becomes more detailed. There's nothing here that explains that time is passing and they're learning more. Making D best answer. Question. A stakeholder asks who is responsible for planning and managing the daily work of building the product during a sprint. They are curious whether this is directed by the Scrum Master or product owner. What should the Agile PM do? Explain that the product owner manages the daily sprint task and delegate work. Clarify the Scrum Master organizes daily work to maximize team efficiency. State the product owner and Scrum Master collaborate to assign work to developers. Explain that development team self-manages its own work within the sprint, which is the correct answer. On an Agile project, the team manages their own work, not the product owner. The Scrum Master organizes daily work. No, the team does that. State the product owner to collaborate to assign. No, the developers work together to assign who will do what part of what job. Making D best answer. Question. A team is estimating the cycle time for a new feature that has been sized at 60 story points. Their current throughput is 5 stories per day. What is expected cycle time? All right, so in this one, you got to do a little bit of maths. You're doing 60 points, and the current throughput is 5 per day, so 60 divided by 5. This is going to be 12 days in total. I mean, you could have done it on your hand. You could have said, well, they're doing 5 points. So day 1, they do 5. Day 2, they do another 5. Day 3, they do and you could just keep counting. So it'd be 5, 10, 15, 20, right? You could count it up on your fingers. But realistically, just divide 60 by 5. This is part of that Little's Law formula. Make sure you understand that formula. It's a pretty easy formula, but make sure you understand that formula for your exam. Question. During the retrospective, the team decides that they should begin daily knowledge sharing hurdles, reduce time spent on lengthy email chains, and continue pair programming. What activity best represents this part of the retrospective? Gather data, short subjects, generate insight, close retrospective. All right, this here is short subject. Do more of, do less of. That's what this is. Okay, because you notice they should begin. All right, so start doing, stop doing. These are all part of short subjects. Reduce time. So they're saying, hey, we got to start doing this. We got to stop doing this. We should do more of this, do less of this. That's the short subject. Gather data is reflecting on what's happening throughout the sprint. Generate insights is analyzing the data they get from it. They're not analyzing, they're coming up with solutions, and they're not just closing it here. They're coming up with actual things to do in the next sprint. Making B the best answer. Question, and a big one too. During the middle of a high-pressure sprint, 2 team members approached the Agile project manager to express frustration. One member repeated interruptions from stakeholders asking for status updates, while the other highlights that an unresolved technical issue has blocked progress for 2 days. Meanwhile, the product owner has also asked for help reiterating the product vision to align with stakeholder expectation. What should the Agile PM do? Schedule a stakeholder alignment meeting to clarify the project vision and reduce future interruptions. Work with the team to resolve the technical issue and escalate if needed. Remind stakeholders of the team communication protocol. Prioritize removing the blocker and shielding the team from interruptions. Best answer here is, as a servant leader, what we have to do is we have to remove interruptions. This is part of the core of a servant leader. What you should do is to meet with them and, hey, you know what? Notice this one says, repeated interruptions for status updates, while others highlight unresolved issues for 2 days. The product owner has also asked for help to retaliate the project vision with stakeholders. This is all things that you need to take care of, not things the team should be handling. So that's why this is the best answer. Schedule a stakeholder to align. This is not going to stop this part here, where they're interrupting the team. Work with team members to resolve the technical issues. Well, it's not going to stop people from coming to them. Remind stakeholders of team communication. Never do mean things. Never just remind people or force people to do things. That's why D is the better answer here. Follow the principles of servant leadership to get this one correct. All right, 39. An Agile project manager notices that the band representing the test stage in the cumulative flow diagram has been growing significantly wider over the last 2 weeks, while other bands remain stable. What should the PM do? Reallocate a resource from the development phase to the testing to increase test throughput. Extend the sprint length to allow testing to catch up. Investigate the testing process for bottlenecks causing the delay. Instruct the team to slow development until testing finishes the backlog. This is a tricky question, okay? It's a tricky question. All right. You notice that the band represents the test stage and the cumulative has grown significantly wider over the last 2 weeks, while all the bands remain stable. What should you do? Reallocate resource from development to testing to increase test throughputs. Okay. Extend the sprint length, but this is not going to help you. You shouldn't be extending the length. That's something that the team does. Instruct the team to slow development until the testing. No, don't take an action yet. What you want to do, if you find that there is a problem, before taking an action, notice action, 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 versus investigate first. Let's investigate, see what's causing the testing for the bottlenecks causing delay. Because in a cumulative flow diagram, generally the one that's widening is not the one causing the delay, it's the one underneath it. But in order to do that, you would need to investigate it, which is C, before taking an action. So if you would have done A, B, or D, it would have never answered it, because according to the cumulative flow diagram, if the one that's widening is not the problem, it's the one underneath it that's the problem. So you shouldn't be fixing A. You shouldn't be fixing this phase, which is A, B, or D. That's why it's kind of a trick question. Making C the best answer. Question. After completing a sprint, the Agile team gathers to reflect on their process and identify ways to improve teamwork and efficiency. The session focuses on what went well and what didn't, and what actions could be taken next sprint. What Agile activity are they doing? Retrospective, stand up, sprint review, or pre-mortem? Best answer here, this is a retrospective. This is something that they do all the way right after the sprint review to see what we did right, what we did wrong, what can we improve on in the next sprint. The daily stand-up is used to answer 3 questions. What what we did yesterday. This is done throughout the sprint. What we did yesterday. What are we going to be doing today? And do we have any impediments? Sprint review is having the customers review the product we made. Pre-mortem is generally what we're going to be doing before the sprint to see anything going right or wrong here. Making A the correct answer. Question. A team transitioning to Agile expressed concerns about reducing the amount of documentation produced during development. They used to create a detailed plan, specs, approval, workflows before writing any codes. The Agile project manager wants the team to adapt more value-added mindset. What should the Agile project manager do? Advise the team, put on the pen. Advise the team to eliminate documentation entirely and focus only on coding. All right. Instruct the team to postpone development until all paperwork and detailed requirements are completed. Emphasize the documentation is a higher priority than product delivery because it ensures traceability. Explain that Agile values work in software over comprehensive documentation and encourages creating only necessarily timely documentation. To get this one correct, you're going to have to make sure you understand your Agile principles and values. And this is one of the main Agile values, is we value work in software. We don't want heavy-duty documentation that just delays work or may just be unnecessary. So we don't want to advise them to eliminate. You don't want no documentation, which is A. Instruct the team to postpone development. No, we do development first. Emphasize and documentation is not a higher priority than work in software, making D the best answer on this one. Question. During a sprint, a development team finishes implementing a new feature and shares it with stakeholders for feedback. They collect comments, analyze what worked, and identify areas for improvement. What phase of the Agile cycle are they in? So you got to know the Agile cycle of improvement here. So you notice that the team here, development finishes, implementing new features, and shares it. What they do is they're collecting comments, analyze what worked, and identifying areas for improvement. So what are they doing? Well, they're evaluating what happened and what went wrong and how they can fix it. They're not planning. That's planning of how they plan to do it. Now they're just evaluating it. Then they're going to have to learn what went right, what went wrong, and then develop plans to improve it. They're not doing that yet. They're just identifying areas for improvement. And identifying areas is B, the evaluate stage of that cycle. Question. An Agile team wants to reduce waiting times and eliminate unnecessary steps in the current product delivery process. They begin by mapping out the flow of activities and identifying points of delay or non-value-added work. Then they create a network diagram showing their ideal process flow. What tool is the team using to drive this improvement effort? Process control chart, burn-up chart, value-based prioritization matrix, or value stream map. Best answer here, guys, is going to be a value stream map. Now, we did cover this, and in the value stream map, basically you map out all of the things you do when you're completing a particular task or a particular work type schedule. And what you're doing is you're identifying where there's efficiency you can increase, decrease work, where you can decrease time in particular. So that'll be the value stream map. A burn-up chart and burn-down charts would show work that has been done versus work that is left to be finished, or how much work that was done versus how much work is remaining to be done. Process control chart. Now, this tells you whether a process is in control, and this utilizes things such as upper limits and lower limits to see if a process is in control. This is nothing that deals with this here. And they're not prioritizing any kind of features here, making D the best answer. An Agile team delivers an increment at the end of the iteration and shares it with stakeholders for feedback. The stakeholder provide valuable suggestions that can enhance the product, but the team is unsure whether to act immediately or wait until the next planning stage. What should the Agile practitioner recommend? So let's go through this question here. It says that they provide valuable suggestions that could enhance the product, but the team is not sure what to do with this. What should you recommend? Proceed with implementing the changes immediately to show responsiveness. Ignore the feedback for now and revise it in the product roadmap. Evaluate the feedback and incorporate it into the backlog for prioritization. Ask the stakeholders to submit formal change requests before considering their input. Best answer here, guys, is going to be C. Now, I want to point out something that the question says, what should you recommend? It's not what should you do. You shouldn't do C. You should recommend C, is why C is correct. The Scrum Master, the Agile Project Manager, shouldn't be incorporating things into the product backlog. That's the product owner, or the stakeholder, the customers. So what should you recommend? You should recommend that they evaluate the feedback and incorporate it into the product backlog. So if you got this one wrong, you got to read it carefully. They're not asking what you should do. It's what you should recommend. You shouldn't just put the changes immediately in. That's something for the product owner. Ignore the feedback for now and revise it in the product roadmap. No, never. Anytime you get a question where it's like ignore something, is probably not the answer. Ask the stakeholder to submit formal change requests before they consider their input. There is no formal change requests on an Agile project. You can see the correct one. Question. After completing a sprint, the Agile team conducts a session to reflect on what went well, what didn't, what can be improved upon. A stakeholder who is new to Agile asks whether this meeting is part of the project planning. What should you do? Explain that this is a retrospective. Clarify the meeting as a sprint review. Identify the meeting as part of the release planning. Describe the meeting as a sprint planning session. Best answer here, guys, is going to be A. That is correct. So, retrospective is when they look back on what happened in the sprint, what went right, what went wrong, what should they improve upon. A sprint review is reviewing the product that was made during the actual sprint with the customer. Release planning is planning to what's going to be included in what release. Sprint planning session is determining what will get done in the next sprint. This is generally done by the team. Question. A project manager facilitates a retrospective by drawing a boat heading towards a goal line, with sticky notes representing wind that pushes the boat forward and anchors that slows it down. The team uses this visual to discuss enablers and blockers with collaboration game of this. It's a pretty easy one. I mean, there's only one here with boat here, but I did add this one onto here because I still want you guys to know the definition and understand what the sailboat is. It's not pruning the product tree. This is drawing a tree and then starting to group items together. Remember, the future is seeing what went well and what went wrong by trying to envision what the future would look like. It's not boat mapping either. That's not a real thing. Sailboat is the one that we did cover in the course. Making C, best answer. Question. During a strategy session, a stakeholder suggests adding flashy new features to surprise users, even though some basic functions still aren't working reliable. The Agile project manager wants to help the team balance customer satisfaction with value delivery by better categorizing features. What should the Agile PM do? Use Kano analysis to identify which features are must-have, satisfiers, and delighters. Defer all suggested features until the backlog is completely cleared. Ask the stakeholders to submit a change request form for further evaluation. Shift all team focus to innovation features to boost customer enthusiasm. Best answer here. Notice you want to help the team balance satisfaction and value-driven. Better categorizing the feature, and if you're better categorizing them, Kano is one of the best ways to categorize them as must-have or delighters, things that would be great to have, and so on. You shouldn't just defer them. Part of the question is about categorizing them. There's no change request. There's no formal change request in an Agile project. Shift focus to innovation features. No, let's categorize it. D does not answer the question. A does, making A the best answer because that's the one that gives you the ability to categorize those features. Question. An Agile project manager is coaching a newly formed development team. The team expresses uncertainty about how to divide the work and asks the project manager to assign tasks. Instead, the project manager encourages the team to collaborate, discuss priorities, and determine how best to organize themselves. What principle is the Agile PM promoting? Centralized control to ensure consistency, team self-organization and empowerment, product owner directions of all development tasks, fixed team roles. Best answer here, guys, is going to be team self-organization. Why is that? Because you notice the PM here is encouraging the team to collaborate, discuss priorities, and discuss how best to organize themselves. This is the definition of a self-organizing, self-directing team. It's not a centralized control. It's more decentralized as we depend on the team. There's nothing here about the product owner. There's no fixed role here. There's no hierarchy, as the team basically manages themselves. Best answer, B. Question. During a stakeholder onboarding session, a senior executive expresses skepticism about Agile. Question and how it adds value compared to traditional methods. The Agile project manager wants to highlight some of the key benefits of using an Agile approach. What should the Agile PM do? Explain that Agile ensures teams follow a fixed process and minimizes feedback loops to reduce complexity. Emphasize that Agile avoids involving customers throughout the lifecycle to streamline decision making. Highlight that Agile delivers all value at the end of the project but allow changes in the early stages. Describe how Agile involves customer throughout the cycle, encourages continuous feedback, welcome changes, and delivering value early. Okay, so you have to choose the best one here that really represents the values of Agile. And the best thing here is that the greatest thing about Agile is the heavy customer involvement, great feedback, we always welcome changes, and we deliver value early. Notice, highlight that Agile delivers all value at the end. That is traditional project. That is incorrect for C. B says, Agile avoid. No, Agile wants customers. A, explain Agile ensure teams follows. There's no fixed process, as the team uses the best process at the correct time. Making D the correct answer. Question. During a backlog refinement session, a developer proposes adding an advanced reporting dashboard that wasn't requested but could impress the client later. The feature would require significant effort and delay completion of basic reporting functions the client has explicitly prioritized. What should you do? Recommend completing the basic reporting first and then deferring the advanced until it's requested. Encourage the developer enthusiasm and assign the dashboard to an upcoming sprint. Add both reporting features to the next sprint to give the clients multiple options. Approve development of the dashboard to demonstrate added value. The best thing here we can do is aid. Now, here's why. Because you don't want to waste effort and time for something that the customer may or may not value. If the customer has not requested it, you shouldn't do it, because then you'll be wasting time. This is called unnecessary features. And it's part, if you look in lean development, this would fall in there, and you don't want that. Encourage developers no, don't encourage it. Don't do it. All of these here, B and D, basically is doing it, and you don't want to add that in there. And you don't even want to bring it up to the client. Unless the client really brings it up, don't add it in. If not, it's considered waste. Question. The product manager and stakeholders have each shared their vision for the project, but the development team seems unclear about what they're building and why. As the project manager, what should you do to promote a shared vision? Facilitate a collaborative session to align all parties on a unified product vision. Ask the product manager to document and distribute a finalized version of the vision. Proceed with the current backlog and let clarity evolve during the iteration. Delegate the clarification of the vision to Scrum Master to present at the next stand-up. All right, best answer here, guys, is going to be the one that brings everybody together, have them hopefully meet face-to-face and solve the problem, making A the correct answer. You don't want to just have the product manager to document and finalize. Then what about everybody else? Maybe they're not understanding the vision. You want to just proceed and let clarity evolve. The team should know what they do before they make the product. Delegate the clarification of the vision to the Scrum Master. No, the clarification vision should come from your product owner, from your product manager, these types of folks, not just from the Scrum Master or the Agile PM. Question. An XP team is preparing to begin a new iteration. The customer explains which functionality they want delivered. And the developers begins breaking the functionality into tasks and estimating the efforts based on their capacity. What XP planning practices are there? Iteration planning, release planning, sprint agreement, backlog refinement. Best answer here, guys. The iteration planning iterates, or the sprint planning pushes out the sprint or iteration backlog. This is when the team determines what will get done in the sprint based on their capacity, based on their velocity of how much work they can get done or how quickly. Release planning, this determines what gets done in a release. Sprint grooming, this should be more like backlog grooming. There's really nothing like that. Backlog refinement is when they go in and reprioritize, removing things, or backlog grooming. Nope, put an X there. That doesn't answer that question. But backlog refinement or grooming is when you add and remove things to the product backlog, reprioritizing as features are added and removed. Question. During an agile project, the stakeholder asks how the team is tracking risk over time. The team presents a risk burndown chart showing the decreasing severity of identified risks from June through September. What does the risk burndown chart predominantly demonstrate? The number of risk responses, actions executed during the project, the remaining budget available for risk mitigation, the effectiveness of risk management throughout the project, the percentage of scope at a risk. Well, I know it doesn't show basically three of these things. It does not show how much risk responses, budget, or scope. What it does show is how effectively we're managing risk. Is risk growing or getting smaller as the project is progressing? You can see, best answer. Question. A project manager is preparing for an agile transformation across a large organization. During early discussions, senior leaders express concerns about the risk of failure. Managers fear losing control, and users question whether all necessary features will be delivered. What should the project manager do to address these concerns? Avoid discussing Agile until a successful pilot project. Reassign skeptical stakeholders to other projects. Provide tailored Agile education to all stakeholders to address concern. Shift Agile to a hybrid approach to minimize resistance. Now, I did go over this with you in the course. You have to become an Agile advocate. Promote Agile at all levels, or as much as you could. That's what C is about. So what is C about? Training and being the Agile advocate. When people don't know Agile, then they have misinterpretations that there is a high risk of failure or they're losing control. Technically, they're gaining more control. All features, we actually deliver the most valuable features. So there's a lot of misinterpretation about Agile if you're not trained on it. Avoid discussing Agile. No, you should discuss it a lot. You don't want to reassign. Don't kick people off a project because of knowledge. Shift from Agile to hybrid. No, don't shift it. Train people, and maybe then you would do a hybrid. But shift their focus, shift their education on Agile. They can see the best answer. During an Agile project, stakeholders express concern that their feedback is not being integrated until late in the development cycle. What should the Agile practitioner do to avoid this? Involve stakeholders from the beginning and use iterative reviews to gather feedback. Schedule a stakeholder review session after each sprint to collect feedback only once per cycle. Ask the product owner to deliver a detailed requirements doc up front. Increase the length of each sprint to allow more time for review. Now, the best way to get user feedback is not, C is not bad, but it says only once per cycle. It's continuous. We want feedback on a continuous, we want to integrate feedback on a continuous basis. The product owner deliver a detailed requirements doc. We don't have requirements doc, we do have a product backlog. Increase the length. You don't just go and increase the sprint planning, but what you should do is gain more feedback. Make an A, best answer. Question. During a team planning session, two senior developers disagree on the best technical approach for an upcoming feature. As tension rises, the project manager intervenes by guiding, keyword, the conversation towards mutual understanding and helping the team explore compromises without escalating. This is the key. Remember, conflict is good, but you can't let it escalate. What soft skills is being demonstrated? Active listening, negotiation, emotional intelligence, or facilitation. Best thing here, guys, is going to be you're facilitating a meeting between them. You're not just actively listening. This is taking no action. This is just listening. You're not negotiating or coming up with some kind of solution here. You're just guiding things. Emotional intelligence is more, this is what people would use to understand how your emotions are affecting others and vice versa. So that doesn't apply here, but what you're doing is facilitating or guiding the conversation between the two developers, making D the best answer. Question: during the backlog refinement, a product owner uses numerical labels like priority 1, priority 2, and priority 3 to sort upcoming features. However, several stakeholders argue that almost every priority is 1. The Agile project manager wants to recommend a better method to improve clarity and reduce ambiguity. What should you do? Ask the team to rank all priority 1 based on complexity. Recommend using Moscow to categorize. All right, must have, should have, could have. Suggest removing prioritization and letting the team pull all work as capacity allows. Create a weight scoring system using risk, value, and effort to automate item ranking. There's 2 good answers on this one. So the best answer here is going to be B. There was 2 good. It was either B or D. Here's why. You should have gotten away with A. Ask the team, because this is where the team prioritizes. And C is the team prioritizes. You notice some people went with C here. Create a weight system. I like, for example, value is good, but effort to automate item ranking? No, that's not something the customer would know. This part here is what kills D. Our effort to do the work. We shouldn't prioritize work just based on effort and whether you can automate it or not. We may use risk sometimes. Have the risk adjusted backlog. So risk and value is good, but effort and automate no good. So the only other answer was another prioritization method. Instead of using 1 and 2, maybe we can just use must have, should have, could have. This would be a better way than using priority 1, 2, and 3, making B the best of these answers. I want to point out that on this exam, it's not about choosing a correct answer, it's choosing the best answer. So even though it's not 100% right, as long as it's more right than the other answer, you're good. Question: a project manager noticed that some stakeholders are unclear about the project's definition of done, and they're hesitant to provide input. What should the PM do to foster better engagement and alignment? Wait until the end of the sprint to review what done means. Remove hesitant stakeholders. Frequently clarify what done looks like. Send stakeholders a detailed document explaining all definition. Done can change over time. There's a reason why we should, on a consistent basis, define what done looks like. So frequently defining and clarifying the statement of done. Don't wait until the end of the sprint to review what done looks like, because then they can complete work that doesn't match requirements. Remove hesitant stakeholders from planning sessions. You don't want to just remove people from a planning session. All right? Don't remove stakeholders. Don't fire. Send stakeholders a detailed document explaining all definitions. They should be sending that to you, not vice versa. You shouldn't explaining. You want them to define what the definition of done is. Question: while reviewing a failed project, executive noticed that many major defects were only discovered during final testing, leading to costly rework and delays. The Agile project manager is asked to recommend a strategy to reduce the cost of change in future project. What should the PM do? Increase testing resources during the final phase to catch issues faster. Postpone major design discussions until more data is available. Encourage incremental delivery and earlier testing to identify problems when they're cheaper to fix. Use a traditional risk register to document risk and review them quarterly. Now, the best answer here is definitely to use incremental delivery, and the earlier the test, the faster you find the problem. And the earlier in the development cycle that problems are found, the cheaper to fix it. That is a given fact. I did show you a chart in the course on this. So you want to make sure you understand that concept. Now, increase testing resources during the final. You want to test before the final. Postpone major design until more data is available. Never postpone anything on a project. Part of the agile mindset. Use a traditional risk register. That's okay to use. Agile could have risk registers. No problems with that. But you don't review them quarterly. You review them consistently. You can see. Best answer. Question. An Agile project manager is working with a finance department that is new to Agile and is used to approving funding in large upfront allocations. The project manager wants to introduce Agile concurrent development principles to help the department better understand how budgeting and delivery work in Agile environments. What should the PM do? Explain that Agile uses incremental funding, steady delivery of value, ongoing validation with users, early integration, and continuous adaptation to change. Okay. Recommend deferring integration and risk assessment until just before release to reduce overhead. Suggest Agile avoids customer validation and instead focus on delivering large portion of work for executive review. Emphasize that Agile team follows a fixed budget and scope once approved to avoid disruptions from ongoing feedback. Well, I know which one I'm going to eliminate right off the bat. All right, I'm going to eliminate D right here because Agile does not follow a fixed budget, and it does follow a fixed budget somewhat, but it doesn't follow a fixed scope once approved. That's for sure. Suggest Agile avoids customer validation. No, it does that on a continuous basis. Recommend deferring integration. You should never defer a thing. And you should do risk assessment continuously. Now, A is the correct one because it does use incremental funding. You don't have to fund it all up front because you're funding it in increments. It does do a steady incremental value push out. You're always validating with your users, and you do get that early integration, making A the correct answer. Question. An Agile team is managing a project with several high-risk features planned for late in the release cycle. The product owner is concerned about the cumulative risk and wants better visibility into how risk is being addressed over time. What should the Agile PM do? Use a risk burndown chart to visualize how risk is being mitigated across integrations. Restructure the sprint backlog to remove high-risk features and replace them with low-risk tasks. Recommend deferring high-risk items to the end of the development to avoid disruptions. Advise the product owner to trust the team's flexibility to handle risk as it arrives. All right, I know what I'm not doing here versus what I'm doing. So let's go with the answer here, guys. Now, you notice one of them you could have gone right off the bat with was B. You don't have the, what should you do? You don't have the ability to restructure the sprint backlog. That's something maybe the product owner do, not you. You notice the question. Let's go back to the question. Cumulative risk, better visibility. The only answer here that'll give you a visualized approach to risk management is your risk burndown chart, which shows you the severity of risk over time. Making A the best answer. You shouldn't recommend deferring high risk to the end of the development. Not to the end, maybe, but different, maybe later on, but not necessarily to the end. Avoid the product owner to trust the team. Yeah, it's good for the product owner to trust him. You should all trust the team, but the question wants us to better visualize risk, which makes A the best of those answers. Question. A project team is preparing to begin work on a new Agile initiative. The team wants to align with stakeholders, clarifying how the project will be conducted and establish a shared understanding without locking down all the details too early. What document should the project team create to accomplish this? Detailed scope statement, Agile charter that outlines the project intent, W5H, that's the 5 W's, when, where, why, and the H is the how, an execution approach, risk management plan with stakeholder tolerance, statement of work with final deliverables and cost estimates. Best answer here, guys, is going to be the Agile charter. How did I get that? Well, you notice it says here, without locking down all the details too early. So this statement here, you want something that's not too detailed and something that's early. Well, the Agile Charter is exactly that. It has what the project will be doing, why are we doing this project, maybe we're going to be using this certain Agile approach. You don't want a detailed scope statement because that'll take too long. Risk management approaches does not necessarily specify how the project will be done. And a statement or a final delivery on cost estimates would go into detailed planning that would take very long. It can be the best answer here. Question. A program manager is reviewing the cost drivers in the Coco Mo Model. That's cost constructive model. And notices that the most heavily weighed factor is people, significantly outweighing tools, schedules, or even product characteristics. What does this indicate about managing cost effectively? Now, that's efficiently. Invest in automation and tooling will yield the greatest cost savings. Improving team capability and motivation will have the highest impact. Scheduling techniques and reuse planning are most cost-effective strategies. Design standardization is more valuable than team dynamics. Best answer here, guys, is going to be, if you said B, you're correct. The best answer here is B. Here's what this is. So the cost constructive model shows you that the people influence on the project drives up a lot of the cost. So if you have bad people or people not trained, people not getting along, dysfunctional team, this can cost the project an enormous amount of money. That'll have the highest impact on it, more than things like tools and automation, scheduling, and design standards. It can be the best answer. Question. An Agile team uses a control chart to monitor their cycle times. Over several iterations, they notice data points that falls outside of the upper limits. How do you interpret that? What should the team interpret from this? The team has improved performance. The project scope has been extended. A special cause of variation has occurred. The team should immediately increase work per limit. So if you're doing a control chart and there's what's called upper and lower limits, anything above the upper or below the lower limits is considered some kind of defect, and it should be investigated to see why. Generally, it's not a good thing. That's why it's not about improving the team. It's not about scope getting bigger, or you should be increasing the work here because you're not doing something right. So C, there's some cause or variation. You should go in there and see what's happening in that section. Maybe there's something going on. Maybe something negative has happened there that you have to look into. You can see the best answer. Question. You're leading an Agile project and want to ensure that everyone on the team has a consistent understanding of what done means for each backlog item. Some team members have completed work that doesn't meet expectations due to different interpretation of completion. What should the project manager do to establish a consistent standard? Establish a definition of done for user stories, releases, and final deliverables. Assign a quality assurance lead to review all completed items for consistency. Allow each developer to define what done means. Require all backlog items to be peer reviewed by other team members. Now, the definition of done does not come from the team. It comes from the users. So, and it's a shared thing between users and team members. So it's not like developers define that. So C is definitely out. Require all back to be peer reviewed by other team members. No, it should be reviewed with the actual. Should be reviewed with the users, the product owner, not just team members. Assign a quality. You don't need a quality assurance lead. What you want to do is you want to make sure that you have a definition of done, a shared definition of done for all the stories and all the releases that are coming up for the project. Make it A, the best answer. Question. A newly formed Agile team is struggling with poor collaboration. Team members often work in isolation. Communication is infrequent and decisions are made inconsistently. What should the project manager do to help the team work together more effectively? Assign specific tasks to each team member based on their experience. Schedule daily one-on-one check-ins with each team. implement stricter communication rules, promote cross-functional collaboration, and define working agreements. Yep, that definitely is the best answer here, because an agile team should be cross-functional. What does that mean? When you build agile team, you want to have generalizing specialists. You want to have folks that knows how to do more than one thing. Maybe you hire a developer that knows testing, that knows database development. So he just doesn't know coding. He's also a database person, he's also a tester. That way they can help each other and collaborate and more communicate. You don't assign tasks to each member. Generally, the team will do that. And you shouldn't do one-on-one check-ins. They should be doing their stand-up meetings. And you don't want strict communication rule. Let the team develop the best way to communicate. Make indeed the best answer. Question. During a release planning meeting, the project manager asks stakeholders to imagine that the upcoming product release has already been successful. The team discusses what outcome made it success and how they achieved that. What collaboration game? So this here, it's not the sailboat. It's not about a particular feature, pruning the project tree. So the sailboat says what's driving the project, what can delay the project. Buy the feature. We didn't cover that in the course, by the way. You don't need to know that. It doesn't exist. Prune the product tree. This is going to be something where you will start to categorize all the different features that are out there. But remember the future. This one we did cover. Remember, know what I cover in the course. Remember the future is a game where you pretend that the product was released and then you're saying, okay, what went right, what went wrong on that particular feature or that particular deliverable or output. Make indeed correct answer. In fact, the question is a good example. It's a good definition of D. Question. A new team member who recently transitioned from a heavily process-driven organization expresses confusion about agile priorities. They notice that the team seemed to be focused on conversations, working code, and quick decisions rather than detailed plan and extensive documentation. What should the Agile PM do? Clarify that Agile eliminates the need for documentation contracts, replacing them with constant verbal communication. Explain that Agile values individuals and interactions, working software, customer collaboration responded to changes, more than rigid processes, documentation. Emphasize that Agile teams avoid following any plan in order to stay flexible. Recommend shifting to a hybrid approach that minimizes stakeholder involvement to streamline decision making. So this here, you just got to know your Agile values. First of all, Agile does not eliminate, keyword here, the need for documentation. Agile teams avoids following any plan. No, they have plans. Sometimes they have a lot of plans, depending on what they're doing. Recommend shifting. No, you don't necessarily need to get rid of Agile and just go to a hybrid. But this is part of the Agile principles. We want individuals and interactions. We work in software is how we measure the progress. We welcome customer collaborations and we welcome changes at any point, even late. More than rigid processes. So we're saying, hey, more than. Doesn't mean we don't have process, documentation, and plans. Making B, best answer. Question. During development of a new system, the Agile team is struggling to align on how information such as customer and address data should be stored and linked. The team is using user stories and has general understanding of requirements, but is experiencing confusion about relationships between data elements. What tool should the project manager recommend to clarify these relationships? Use Agile modeling to create data models. Develop use case diagram to show interactions. Create a wireframe to visualize user interface. Organize a stakeholder workshop to rewrite the user stories. So I want to point out here that this here, address data should be stored and linked. So in that one, you're going to be doing a data model. Data models shows they're using database development and development of software. And what those do, is they have different tables, and tables store data, and then they show how the tables are linked up. So that's called a data model. Now, use case diagrams, this is going to show how systems are going to be flowing. This visualizes a user interface. This is not going to show how data is linked and stored. They're not talking about user stories. They're talking about how data is stored and linked. Make an A best answer. Question. During a kickoff meeting, a stakeholder unfamiliar with Agile asks the Agile project manager to clarify which delivery approaches fall under the Agile umbrella. The stakeholder mentions here in terms like extreme programming, lean, Kanban, and waterfall, but isn't sure which one uses Agile. What should the PM do? Clarify that only extreme programming qualifies as Agile, since the others are either manufacturing or traditional. Explain that extreme programming, lean development, Kanban are Agile, while waterfall is traditional and plan-driven. Okay. Emphasize that all four approaches can be customized for Agile use depending on the organization. State that none of the approaches are strictly Agile unless implemented within a Scrum framework. Best answer here is definitely B. Remember, guys, extreme programming we covered in this course. Lean we covered. Kanban we covered. Waterfall, we covered that in more like a PMP course because that is going to be plan-driven traditional project, which is what B is. The rest of these are absolutely incorrect. Some of those are Agile, not none of them. And A is definitely incorrect. It's not just extreme programming. Making B the correct answer. Question. An Agile project manager is working with a new team that is still in the forming stage. Team members are unclear about roles, avoid conflict, and seek guidance frequently. What leadership style should the project manager adapt to best support the team at this stage? Delegating, coaching, directing, supporting. Now you notice they're in the foreman stage. So this is the stage of the Tuckman's ladder. So it's foreman, storming, norming, performing, and adjourning. In that stage, what should you be doing? Should you be supporting them, coaching them? Well, they just form and they're going to be needing directions. So you're going to be directing them because they don't know what this project is all about. They just formed, they just came together. It's not until the team really understands the work and they start doing the work that you start supporting them. Maybe they have some issues. You're going to support them resolving those issues and coaching them through the problems. Let's put X's there. Delegating the work when they determine what work to get done. So this scenario, you have to direct them in the early stages of the project. Question. During a planning session, a product sponsor asks the Agile project manager why the team cannot commit to a fixed scope for the upcoming release, especially since the budget and timelines are already approved. The sponsor is used to traditional project models where the scope is locked early. What should the Agile PM do? Explain that Agile inverts the traditional triangle by fixing time and cost while allowing scope to be varied based on values and priorities. Okay. Recommend fixing scope and adjusting the budget and schedule dynamically throughout the project. Clarify that Agile does not plan for time or cost because it operates in a reactive cycle. Suggest building all features first and extending the timeline as much as needed. Now, you just got to understand that Agile is about inverting the triangle. So in the traditional triangle, you have scope, then you have a varying time and cost. In the Agile triangle, we change that and we say we invert the triangle and we try to keep a fixed time and cost and we vary the scope. That's why we have a product backlog that can be updated and features can be added and removed, making A the other answer. Now, the rest of these are incorrect statements. All right. Suggest building all features first. We don't extend it. We don't extend timeline. And we just don't have no budget and then just do whatever budget we like, which is C. And we don't have a fixed scope. Make an A best answer. Question. Mid-sprint, a team discovers that some completed tasks don't align with the sprint goal due to misunderstood requirements. The Agile project manager wants to help the team recover and improve. What should the Agile PM do? Postpone changes until the next sprint to avoid disrupting the team's current work. Encourage the team to continue and use retrospectives to address the issue later. Encourage timely inspection and real-time adaptation to correct course. Assign a new team lead to oversee communication, prevent further misunderstanding. All right, so in this one here, you want to have the team recover and improve. So what are we going to be doing here? Well, timely inspection, and we want to do this as fast as possible. Notice, didn't align with the goal. You want to have the team recover from this. It's something you should be doing on a consistent. Just don't postpone changes until the next sprint. You should be implementing changes consistently. You just don't want to wait until the retrospectives to address issues throughout. Timely inspection. Assign a new team lead. Just don't give it away to someone. Try to work with the team to do it. Make and see. Best answer. Question. During a release planning session, the product owner is struggling to prioritize the product backlog items that all seem important. Several stakeholders are present, each with different opinions about which features are most valuable. The Agile project manager wants to guide the group towards a collaborative, value-driven prioritization approach. What should the project manager do? Ask the stakeholder to defer to the product owner and reprioritization offline. Revise prioritization offline. Use the team velocity and capacity data to estimate how many features can be delivered. Apply a risk-based adjusted backlog scoring to evaluate low-risk, high-value items. Facilitate a prioritization session like dot voting, Moscow, 100-point. Best answer here, guys, is going to be work with them as a project manager. Work with the actual stakeholders in a prioritization meeting, such as maybe Moscow or 100-point method. Just don't ask them to defer it. You should not be using the team velocity in there. Once it's prioritized, maybe then we can groom the backlog, risk-adjusted backlogs. But work with the stakeholders on a prioritization technique. Making D, best answer. Question. A company traditionally waits until full product completion before performing any financial review or requesting additional funding. On a new Agile incentive, the leadership team wants to adapt their approach to better align with Agile principles and enable faster value delivery. What should the Agile project manager recommend? Continue with traditional accounting and request all funds up front to avoid delay. Present a full feature roadmap to justify major capital investments at the beginning. Adapt Agile accounting by delivering minimum viable product and securing incremental funding. Wait until after the product release to evaluate whether accounting changes are needed. So notice there is a new Agile initiative. That's the key of the question. And they want to adapt to this. So the way you adapt to it is by utilizing minimum viable products, and you fund the product incrementally versus all the money up front. Notice this one here says a major cap at the beginning. That's A and B is almost the same thing. Wait until, and you don't fund it till the end, but you fund it throughout the project. And you can see the best of those answers. Question. A product owner is concerned about paying too much for Agile work that might extend beyond the original estimate. To manage this, the project manager proposes an agreement where the vendor is paid more for early completion, the standard rate on time for delivery, and less if they are finished late. What type of contract is this? Fixed price, graduated fixed price, cost reimbursable, time material. So this is called, and we went over this in the course, this is called graduated fixed price. In other words, depending on how early they are, if they're on time, if they're late, they get a fixed price, but it changes based on when they deliver it. So if they're early, they get more money. If they're on time, they get a certain amount of money. If they're late, they get much less money. Making the answer B. Question. During a team retrospective, several members mentioned that the digital Gantt chart used by management is confusing and disconnected from their daily work. The team has a whiteboard with sticky notes that update daily, with stakeholders where they see. The Agile project manager wants to bridge the gap while supporting Agile values. What should the Agile PM do? Assign a business analyst to maintain both digital Gantt chart and physical board. Train the team to better align their boards together with the Gantt chart milestones. Propose replacing the Gantt chart with a physical or digital Kanban board that everyone can use. Ask management to stop requesting updates from the team and only use the Gantt chart for planning. Best answer here. So, replace the Gantt chart. We like this. You should have gotten this one. We like Gantt charts that are physical. We like Kanban boards that are physical, even though this one says digital. This is the best thing here we can do that everyone can use and see. You don't want to have two different things. If you start having two different boards and everybody's seeing different boards, that's when this disconnection happens. Here, you're still maintaining two different boards. Train the team to better align. They're still maintaining two different boards. And here, you're just telling people to stop using it. So what we want to do is we want something that everyone can use and see. This is more collaborative than having some people use another thing than versus other people using something else. They can see the best answer. This way they're more in a collaboration versus being disconnected. Question. You lead in an Agile team that is preparing to develop a new feature for a student management system. One of your product owners suggests creating a sample screen sketch that shows the layout of the interface before development. The team agrees that this would help clarify expectation and reduce miscommunication. What Agile modeling technique is this? Is it data models, case diagrams, screen designs, or personas? And this is straight up screen designs. Here you're creating a screen design, basically a mock-up of what the entire screen will look like, making that the right answer. This shows you how data is linked. This shows you how people will use the software. And personas is a profile of a particular user using your product. Question. A stakeholder asks why the Agile team doesn't lock down requirements before starting development. They're concerned that accommodating changes late in the project will lead to delays and budget overruns. What should the Agile PM do? Explain that Agile defines all requirements during sprint planning and resists changes after development begins. Emphasize that Agile locks down scope during release planning to stabilize the delivery and limit scope. Recommend finalizing all backlog items before the team begins to work to improve predictability. Clarify that Agile welcomes changes requirement even late in development because adapting to change supports customer value and competitive edge, making that the best answer. So remember, Agile is about really welcoming changes. Doesn't matter how late in development we are going to welcome changes. We don't define all the requirements during sprint planning, though. We don't define the requirements either. We don't lock down the scope. The scope is never locked down. And you don't recommend all backlog items before the team begins to work. No, they can add later on. Part of the Agile values is we welcome changing requirements even late or as late as possible as we defer decisions. And this brings more value to our customers. Question. An Agile team struggles with staying aligned on project progress. Some team members report feeling out of the loop, while others are unsure about current risk or blockers. What should the practitioners do to address this issue? Use information radiators to share project status, risk, and blockers in real time. Schedule daily status meetings to update everyone regardless of time zones. Appoint a liaison to consolidate and distribute updates to team members. Assign team leads in each time zone to manage local progress and coordination. Best answer here, guys, is going to be A. This is correct. Now, you notice they're feeling out of loop. They're unsure about risk or blockers. That means they're unsure what's happening. What can we use? Well, let's use some information radiators, like large charts, burn up, burn down charts, team velocity, something like that. This here will tell them, maybe some kind of risk charts also that we covered. So this here would be good to use. Having them do more meetings is anti-value. You don't want just one person doing it, and a team leads to manage local progress. Everybody should know what's happening at all times. Choose the answer that improves collaboration, not disapproves it, making A the best answer. Question. A project team identifies several risks and technical constraints during an iteration that could delay product delivery. The project manager collaborates with the team to brainstorm solutions and to prioritize resolving the most critical issues first. What is the project manager following? Assigning each risk to the individual team members to manage independently, waiting until impediments block progress before addressing them, focusing only on risk identified in the risk register, proactively identifying and prioritizing critical risk and impediments with team inputs. And that's exactly what you're doing here, because that's what the question is telling you. You're working with the team, you're brainstorming solutions, you're resolving things before they start to hit the project. That is what you are doing. This is a proactive approach. You're not just assigning it or waiting for it to happen or just working on what's in the risk register. You're working with the team to identify and manage risk, making D best answer. Question. A team is preparing for a process improvement workshop to reduce inefficiencies in their delivery cycle. They decide to use a value stream map to assess each step of their workflow and identify where value is added versus where delays or rework occur. What technique are they applying to identify waste? Retrospective data analysis, visualize the end-to-end value flow, Kanban flow limit enforcement, user story mapping. All right, best answer here is B. Now, remember what a value stream does. A value stream shows you the entire process, all the little steps you're taking to follow a particular process. And then you can identify where there's delays or unnecessary steps or waste. But what it does do is that it does give you a visualization from end to end, from beginning to end. And if you don't do it end to end, you wouldn't get much benefit from it. It's not a retrospective. It's not looking at Kanban or story mapping. So the best thing here, remember, retrospective is what you do after a sprint. Kanban is a flow of work, but it has a limited work in progress. And story mapping, this is how user stories are mapped into particular features. Making B best answer. Question. During an Agile planning workshop, the team is brainstorming ways to visualize the new user portal. A UX designer suggests creating a quick, low-fidelity representation of the layout that can be adjusted easily as feedback is received. The goal is to clarify a shared understanding of what done looks like and validate design before development begins. What tool are they using? Acceptance criteria, personas, profile, wireframes, or the definition of ready. Best answer here. So if they are doing a mock-up, low fidelity representation of layout, of features, if they design in some kind of user interface, that is a wireframe. This is what it's going to look like. It's low fidelity. It doesn't have all the features. It may just be something drawn on a whiteboard with buttons or boxes and things like that. It's not just about user criterias. Acceptance criteria is the requirements they want. This is more to get a shared understanding of what it's going to look like, not necessarily just a requirement. We're not looking at how users interact or who users are. We're not looking at whether this thing is ready to be pushed into production yet. Making C best answer. Question. During a planning session, the Agile team uses brief fictional profiles to better understand user motivation and ensure they're developing valuable features. These profiles are designed to group discussions in real user needs and behaviors. What technique is the team using to help clarify and prioritize features? Personas, user story mapping, wireframes, of value stream mapping. Best answer here, guys, is going to be a persona. So a persona is when you define what type of people, how are they going to use the system, why would they use the system. That's a persona. User story mapping, well, in user story mapping, here you're saying out that this user story maps a particular user or a particular feature. It's not what they're doing here. Wireframe is a mock-up of what the thing will look like. Value stream mapping will show you the steps you're following and if there's any waste. But when you're determining a user, who that person is, you're building a persona of that person. Question: while mentoring a junior project manager transitioning from a traditional environment, the Agile project manager is asked why Agile is often considered more responsive and customer focused. The junior manager is used to delivering everything at the end of the project, following a fixed plan. What should the Agile PM do? Recommend that Agile projects avoid too much planning to encourage spontaneity and innovation. Emphasize that Agile discourages change requests to maintain project control. Clarify that Agile builds the entire product up front, but delivers it in small marketing phases. Explain that Agile delivers in increments, plan continuously welcome changes, and allows customers to see their value. Best answer here, guys, is going to be D. That is correct. So, Agile does deliver an increment, particularly Scrum. You're always planning, you're always welcoming changes, you're seeing customers are seeing value throughout. You just don't build it and then release it in small, I'm not sure what marketing phase are. Emphasize that Agile it doesn't discourage change, it encourages it. And it avoids too much planning to encourage. It doesn't avoid too much planning. I think over time it does a lot of planning. D is a better answer than A, making D correct. Question: a stakeholder expresses concern that written documentation, email updates are not helping them stay informed with project developments. They mention that even video recordings fail to give them clarity they need, leading to misunderstanding and frustration. What should the PM do to improve communication clarity? Schedule a more formal status updates using video recording to reinforce written. Increase the use of face-to-face conversation to improve clarity and engagement. Assign a communication liaison to ensure messages are interpreted correctly. Provide weekly summaries via email with visual progress indicators and actionable items. Best answer here, guys, is going to be, if you remember in the course, face-to-face communication is the best methods of communication. Face-to-face communication allows you to see what people are saying by their visual expression, and not just emails, you can't hear them. And remember, it's not what you say, it's how you say it. Unlike emails, you can even hear them because you have tonality in there. And they can ask follow-up questions better. So it's a more synchronous versus an asynchronous. So the best answer here, guys, is B is definitely better than A. You don't want to just give away the work. Never give away your work. And email, this D is just as good as what they're getting right now, which is no good. They don't like it. So the best thing here to use, face-to-face. Question: an Agile team is struggling to keep track of their progress. Stakeholders frequently ask for updates, and developers spend time answering questions instead of focusing on work. The team uses a Kanban, but is often outdated. What should the Agile practitioner do to improve transparency? Schedule daily meetings, status meeting with stakeholders to keep them informed. Help the team set up a routine for maintaining the Kanban with the current data. Switch to using burn-down charts instead of Kanbans into working for the team. Assign team members to manually send updates. Best answer here, guys, is to keep your Kanban board updated. We should have a process in place for keeping our Kanban boards updated. Okay. Scheduling a status meeting with stakeholders to keep them informed. This here may or may not give them the tools that they need or the updates that they're looking for. Notice they're frequently asking for updates. If we have a Kanban board that's updated, the team, anybody can look at any time, not just once a day, but 10 times a day if they want, to see whether what's getting done, what's not getting done, because the Kanban will tell you what's in progress, what's not. Burn up and burn down charts, although those are good, it still needs to be maintained. Assign a team member to manually send updates to each day. This can burden the team with more work. Making B, best answer. Question. During a review session, several team members expressed that they don't always feel heard when they raise concern or offer suggestions. Others say they are unsure where to find up-to-date project information. What should the project manager do to strengthen collaboration and information sharing? Schedule recurring one-on-one check-ins to ensure each team member has a chance to speak. Centralize project documentation and share digital workspace and send reminders. Assign a team member as a liaison to give feedback and relay it to the project manager. Promote two-way communication and use visual tools like Kanban and whiteboards for shared understanding. So when you have people, team members notice, says here, they aren't always heard when they raise concern. They're unsure where to find updated information. So the best way to do is to utilize things like a Kanban board, because Kanban board will tell us, hey, what's going on? What's happening on this project? Whiteboards can help people express what is it that they're saying. Notice people said they feel like they're unheard. Make indeed the best answer. You don't want to just do one-on-one check-ins. This is not something with team members with you. It's more like between themselves. It's not, you don't need a one-on-one. Central digital workspace, we prefer low-tech, high-touch. So I would go with D over B. And you just don't want to have one person do it all. You shouldn't have a liaison. You should work with them. Making D, best answer. Question. An enterprise is looking to scale its agile practices across multiple large distributed teams and departments. The organization wants a framework that aligns product development, agile software practices, and system thinkings at a company-wide level. What agile approach is most suitable? Crystal. Feature-driven development, Kanban, and scale. So this here is going to be for a big project, not something that's smaller, like a Kanban would generally be small, even feature-driven. Crystal, depending on how big the team is, you can have different crystal, but you want something that's more scalable here. You want something that's system thinking, software practices that aligns more with product development. You have a large distributed team and large to do by department. Basically, safe agile or scaled agile is better than crystal in this one, making D best answer. Don't forget to review in the course. We did go through all the different frameworks. Make sure you understand those different frameworks for your tasks. Question. During a sprint retrospective, the team has just completed its review of what went well and what could be improved. The product owner is eager to move forward, but notices the team hasn't yet created a plan for incorporating the lesson learned. What should the team do next? Develop an action plan for process improvement to implement to the next sprint. Review the product backlog and reprioritize based on stakeholder input. Begin planning the next sprint to avoid delivery. Ask the product owner to schedule a follow-up meeting to discuss improvements. Best answer here, guys, when you have determined, okay, this is how we're going to fix our process, the next thing here you should be doing is coming up with an action plan to determine, hey, this is how we're going to implement our improvement. Notice they're doing this in a retrospective. Come up with the action plan before moving on from the retrospective. The team should not be reviewing the product and reprioritizing. That's the product owner. They shouldn't just plan the next sprint until they come up with an action plan. And this is something the team does themselves. They don't need the product owner here. Making A, best answer. Question. While leading an agile project, the project manager observes that the stakeholders frequently request updates but seem unaware of progress already posted in the project room. What communication tool would best increase visibility and reduce each redundant update request? Schedule weekly presentations to summarize progress for all stakeholders. All right. Set up and maintain clear, visible information radiators such as task boards. Okay. Use a group messaging app to share real-time updates. Post visual progress on team member social media platform. Best answer here, guys. Let's go with what I told you in the course. Let's go with low tech, high touch. Let's go with B, something that's highly visible, radiates information. The moment they walk in, they can see the task board, maybe a Kanban board, what they're doing, what they're not doing. You don't want to just do more meetings, and you want to go with low tech, right? Agile promotes low tech. So we don't want that messaging app or the social media platform. Let's go with that low tech, high touch option. Question. During a sprint review, the Agile project manager notices that the team's digital task board hasn't been updated in days. Only one person on the team regularly enters updates, while the rest ignores it. As a result, stakeholders are confused about progress, and team members seem disengaged. What should the Agile PM do? Assign a team member to update the board to ensure accurate reporting. Replace the tool with a more automated tracking system. Request the product owner to provide a summary of progress at each review. Transition to a physical task board or interactive team whiteboard to promote shared ownership and visibility. Best answer here, guys, is going to be, let's go with something a little bit more low-tech, high-touch here, which is going to be that physical task board. And even if we do go with a digital one, let's make sure everybody has it and it's collective ownership. It's the entire team owns it, not just one person owns it. That's what they have right now. So you don't want to go in and just assign someone. The team should do this, not you. And you don't want to replace it with an automated tracking, more automated tracking system. That's not something you should be doing. You got to work with the team to do this. Request that the product owner, no, the product owner doesn't provide summary. That's the team's job. Best answer here, guys, is going to be D. Question. A project manager is facilitating a user story workshop with a diverse group of stakeholders to keep the sessions productive. They engage all participants to contribute within the first few minutes and use a round-robin approach to prevent dominant voice from taking over. What key principles apply here? Focus on continuous improvement. Prioritizing stakeholders' influence. Enable inclusive collaboration. Establish shared ownership. Now, you notice you're using what's called a round robin. So that way you go to you, then there's Bob, then Jane, then Mary, then Peter. So you're going around the room. Everybody is getting a voice. So no one is dominating it. What you're trying to do is you're trying to be inclusive. You don't want to exclude people. You want to bring people together, which would be C. We're not sure about this here, but there's nothing here that says, this is going to be something about continuous improvement or prioritization or even shared ownership. They're talking about, hey, people are having a chance to speak because you're trying to keep it productive. You want everyone to participate. So this is collaboration, but you're being inclusive with the collaboration. Making C best answer. Question. During a sprint retrospective, two developers strongly disagree on how to approach testing in future sprints. Their discussions becomes heated and the rest of the team grows uncomfortable. The Agile project manager is concerned about the tension, but sees that both developers are offering valid viewpoints and they could improve team performance. What should the PM do? Encourage the team to explore both perspectives constructively and facilitate a follow-up. Take over the discussion and make a decision to prevent further arguments. Meet with each developer privately after the retrospective to de-escalate. End the retrospective early to prevent further escalate and plan a cooling off period. Best answer here. Now, in the course, we talked a lot about how conflict is a positive thing, and we want to manage it and facilitate it to ensure it doesn't get out of hand. That's what A is, right? So we want to explore both perspectives. Because you know why? This could really improve. This could really help their valid viewpoints. This can really help the project. We don't want to take over and just choose. We don't want to just stop it or de-escalate it right away. We just want to maintain it. And you don't want to meet the developers just privately. That everybody get a say in this particular one. Making A the best answer. Question. When facilitating a brainstorming session to generate ideas for a new product feature, the project manager encourages the team to shout out thoughts freely without raising hands, awaiting their turn. Although energetic, some quieter team members remain silent and visibly uncomfortable. What facilitation technique would be most effective in encouraging full participation? Continue the free-for-all method to support spontaneity. Can't really pronounce that word. Ask the team to vote on the best ideas immediately. Allow side discussions to encourage informal sharing. Use quiet writing followed by round robin sharing. So in this one here, you want full participation. So the best way here is round robin. So round robin is where you go around the room and everybody shares ideas. That would be the best option here. Quiet writing is, instead of them shouting out ideas, they write it down on a piece of paper. And then we're going to go around the room and everybody's going to share their ideas. That way everybody participates. Even the ones that remain silent, they have to participate too. You don't want to continue doing the free-for-all because then they wouldn't participate. They're voting, not everybody gets to speak here. And side discussion, once again, not everybody gets to speak. But in the round robin, they do. Question, during a collaborative workshop, the project manager wants to help the team identify unnecessary or outdated features in the product backlog and encourage creative thinking about future possibilities. The team is asked to present features as branches and remove those that no longer support the vision. What are we doing here? Well, what we're doing here is we are pruning the product tree. So let's draw a tree. Let's draw branches. And then we are going to put all the features and group them up by the branches. And then we're going to prune it by removing things we don't need. That's called prune the product tree. It's not remember the future. This is seeing how well something went. Imagining how something went. These are things here that can stop, sailboat, speedboat. Things here that can stop, can accelerate the project. Wind, or things that rocks that can stop the project. All right. Not looking at how to purchase features here, buy a feature by doing points and so on. This is prune the product tree. It's actually a good example of it. Question. A software team uses a visual board to track the status of tasks through stages like in progress, testing, and done. But they also limit how many items can be in each state to reduce the bottlenecks. What agile method is this? Scrum, Lean, Kanban, or Crystal? Now, you should know this because we talked about this quite a lot so far in these question sets. Kanban is what this is. This is when you have an in-progress column, you have a test in, maybe you have a done, you have things that hasn't been started yet. This is really a good definition of Kanban. Crystal uses different colors of crystal to specify complexity and team size. Lean reduces waste, and Scrum delivers products in increments, utilizing many of the Scrum terms, ceremonies, and processes. Question. The project sponsor asks for a quick summary of how the Agile team is progressing towards completion, how much work remains, and whether the project is on track to finish on time and within budget. The project manager wants to provide objective metric-based insight. What should they do? Use KPIs such as velocity, remaining backlog efforts, project completion dates. Refer to team's most recent retrospective notes to explain current challenges and improvements. Share the iteration burn-up chart to show what has been delivered during the current sprint. Explain the team's agile values and emphasize their commitment to continuous improvement. Best answer here, guys, is going to be, notice they want something more objective, metric based. Something that's going to be more numerical based. So KPIs such as how many points we did per iteration, or how much items is left, or when certain dates might be, would answer this question best. We don't want to just refer to notes. Those are going to be more subjective. The iteration to show what's been delivered may show one part of it, but A shows more. The team values and their commitment. This is very subjective. You want something more objective, such as a KPI. Make A the best answer. Question. A developer has been unusually quiet during team meetings. The project manager privately checks in and discovers the developer is feeling overwhelmed and frustrated. The project manager listens, acknowledges their emotions, and works with them to adjust their workloads and regains motivation. What soft skill is it demonstrated? Emotional intelligence, conflict resolution, active listening, or negotiations. Best answer here is emotional intelligence, because they weren't just listening, but they were managing their emotions on what they heard, and then worked with them to regain motivation. So this one here, acknowledges their emotions. It's emotional intelligence, not active listening. There's really no conflict. There's not like the people are fighting here, and they're not coming up with some kind of output where they're doing give and take here, which would be D. Question: during a project review meeting, a team member expressed concerns about delays in completing user stories. The project manager not only listens to the words, but also notices the speaker's body language and tone, responding with empathy and understanding. What type of listening is this? Is this internal, focus, or global? This here would be level 3, listening, correct. Now, level 1 listening is when you're just watching someone and you're thinking, how does this affect me? Level 2, you really start to understand and you start to feel that person's pain. And then level 3 is when you start moving your head. You really can show that you're listening. Your expression changes, your hand movements would be a global listening. So level 3. Reflective listening. Didn't cover that. Not a real thing. Best answer here, C. Question: a project manager is facilitating a stakeholder workshop to define project requirements. To ensure the meeting runs smoothly and productively, the project manager establishes ground rules, set clear goals, manages time, and offers guidance when needed. What skill is the PM demonstrating? Preparatory leadership, facilitation, conflict resolution, workshop planning. Best answer here, guys, is going to be, now this is facilitating a meeting. One of the most important skills we're going to have to do as a project manager is to facilitate many meetings. It's not just a leadership here. This is how we manage teams. This is, notice, the meeting is running smoothly, productively. You establish certain ground rules, not just the way you're talking to people. There's nothing here in this question about conflicts happening or just planning a workshop. This here, you're running the actual workshop. Notice, and you're offering guidance when needed, so you're facilitating the workshop, making B best answer. Question: two senior developers disagree on a design approach for a critical feature. The discussion begins as healthy debate, but escalates into personal attack, each arguing that one solution will ruin the others. What level of conflict is this? Prompt to solve, level 2, disagreement, level 3, contest, level 5, world war. Now, this one here, they're not just disagreeing. Okay, they're not just disagreeing. Now they're doing personal attacks. And they're not even looking to see how this would really help. They're just saying, you're going to be bad. So this problem is beyond problem to solve. But they're not physically fighting each other. That would be 5. Right now they're in a contest to show that my own is better than yours, making C best answer. Question: during a sprint, the development team struggles to resolve an internal disagreement about how to implement a technical feature. The Agile project manager steps in to facilitate the discussion, encourages team members to listen actively, and helps them reach a consensus without imposing a solution. What role is a PM, the Agile PM, demonstrating? Product backlog manager, servant leader and coach, technical decision maker, stakeholder proxy. What you're doing here is you're facilitating, you're encouraging, you're listening actively. Best thing here, guys, is you are a servant leader and you're coaching them. Best answer. The product backlog manager, I don't know what a product backlog manager is. There really isn't such a thing, but if you meant just product to backlog, the backlog manager, the product manager, they don't do that. They don't step into meetings like that. Technical decision maker, you're not making any decision. They're making it. And you're not stepping in as someone else, which is a stakeholder proxy. Making B best answer. Question: during a team meeting, the project manager reminds the group that the success of the project depends more on how well the team collaborates than on which task management tools they use. What principle is the PM emphasizing? Process drive consistent results. Tools are required for Agile compliance. Documentation enables traceability. Individuals and interactions over processes and tools is the correct answer, as that is one of the core values of Agile. We don't look at processes, we look at people more. We don't look at tools or documentation. People are more important than all of these things. people engage in and interact in is more important than any process and tool we can have. Making D best answer. Question. A product owner is meeting with the Agile team to clarify the acceptance criteria for several backlog items. They ensure that the items are prioritized correctly and explain the release schedule during the planning session. What is the product owner primarily responsible for in this scenario? Tracking team velocity and allocating tasks, approving budget and resource usage, managing the product backlog and ensuring shared understanding, assigning story points and technical estimates. So in the world of Agile, what is it that the product owner does? The product owner is meant to maintain the product backlog. They don't assign team velocity, they don't track it, they don't assign work or budget or story points. That's what the team does. But they do manage the product backlog and ensure everybody understands the work in it. Question. Each morning, the development team gathers in the same location for a short meeting. Each member shares what they accomplished yesterday, what they're going to do today, and any blockers. What Agile practice is the team using? Sprint planning, daily Scrum, Sprint Retrospective, or Scrum of Scrum. This is called the daily Scrum. So the daily Scrum answers these three questions, and they do this every day the team meets. Sprint planning is what they will get done in the next sprint. Sprint Retrospective is what went right and wrong in the previous sprint. And the Scrum of Scrums is used on a bigger Agile projects for when you want team collaboration amongst different Scrum teams. That's mostly used in scaled Agile or SAFe. May can be the best answer. Question. At the beginning of a new sprint, the sprint team gathers to determine what can be accomplished and how to structure their work. The project manager encourages the team to reflect on their past capacity and organize their approach. What event is the team participating in? Notice the team gathered to determine what can be accomplished and the structure of their work. This is defined in the sprint planning meeting. It's in the sprint planning meeting do they determine what will get done in the next sprint. Retrospective is what went right and wrong during the previous sprint. Product backlog refinement or grooming. This is when you realign work in the product backlog based on value and you add and remove things from it. Sprint review is when the customer reviews what was built during the sprint. Question. You're working with a newly formed Agile team tasked with building an innovative product in an emerging market. Stakeholders are unsure whether the solution truly meets customer needs. What should the team do first? Begin building all planned features to deliver maximum value at launch. Schedule weekly meeting with stakeholders to review project progress. Develop a small product increment to test and validate market demand. Wait until full requirements are gathered before beginning development. Now, you notice the team is built with innovative product. All right, emerging markets. The best way to handle this is to build something small to see if it's something the market wants. You don't want to build a full-on product. Right, that'll be like A and D. Because if you start doing that and then it doesn't validate, the market doesn't want it, especially something emergent, probably waste a lot of time and energy. Weekly meeting to review project progress. It's good to do that, but I don't know about weekly. Maybe even daily. Notice they're unsure whether it meets customer needs. The best thing to do is to build a small product and increment, like an MVP or minimum viable product. Question. An Agile team is preparing to launch a new mobile app. The marketing department wants every planned feature included in the first release to make a strong impression. However, the development team is concerned about delays and risks. The Agile manager wants to balance early delivery with stakeholders' expectations. What should the Agile PM do? Recommend releasing a minimum viable product with core functionalities. Postpone the release date to accommodate all features. Ask marketing to remove low priority features without input from the rest of the team. Build a prototype with a mock-up screen to satisfy while development continues. Now, the best thing here to do, they want every feature in the first release to make us strong. Now, the best thing here to do, because you know they're going to change their mind, is to give them an MVP. The best thing the Agile PM should recommend, now we're not saying we will do it. Notice the question says recommend releasing it. That way they can get immediate value instead of waiting a very long time. You shouldn't postpone it. We don't want to push all the features out. Ask marketing to remove low priority without input from the rest of the team. They should understand what the team wants. Build a prototype. Although a prototype is good, give them something they can actually find value in, not just a screen mock-up. There's not much value in screen mock-up other than a shared understanding. They actually can use it and see value. Question. 8. Scrum team is preparing for the next development cycle. The product owner confirms the team will remain unchanged and no mid-sprint adjustments will be accepted once work begins. The team sets a 3-week window to produce a potentially shippable product. What situations is this described? Daily Scrum, Backlog Grooming, Sprint, Scrum of Scrums. Best answer here, guys. This basically is a sprint or iteration. They commit to generally 2 to 4 weeks. They're going to build a product, confirms you're not going to change them. There's no adjustment needed. And they're going to start working to produce the shippable product. That is the sprint. The daily scrum is a meeting they do on a daily basis. Backlog grooming is when you reprioritize or remove things from the product backlog. And if you work in massively large teams and there's many scrum teams, you may have scrum of scrums as you would on Scaled Agile, making C the best answer. Question. During a daily stand-up, the project manager notices a usually energetic developer is unusually quiet, avoids eye contact, and finishes updates quickly without offering inputs. What should the PM do to support the team and maintain a healthy team environment? Wait until the next sprint to see if performance changes. Publicly ask the developer during the meeting to elaborate. Privately check in with the developer to better understand any unspoken concerns. Escalate the observation to HR to assess potential personal issues. Now, the answer here is C. I don't want to point out that if there is a problem on an Agile project where it's about one person or one group, go and meet that one person or one group only. Don't bring the entire team into it. Especially don't do it publicly and don't wait for something to happen. And don't give away the problem. You as a project manager should work with your team. You shouldn't be bringing in HR into it first. They can see the best answer. Question. During a sprint review, stakeholders express concern that a critical feature demonstrated by the team is not aligned with their expectations. The feature works, but it does not address the business need they originally described. What should the PM do to ensure future deliverables better align with stakeholders' expectations? Facilitate more frequent and collaborative backlog refinement sessions with the stakeholders. Ask stakeholders to clarify their expectations in writing before the next sprint. Instruct the team to add more documentation and user stories to clarify deliverables. Limit stakeholders' involvement until further product increments are fully developed. So this is a good question. It has a good set of answers. Let's go through it. Notice they express concern that a critical demonstrated by the team is not aligned. This feature works, but is not addressing the need. Okay. So the best answer here, guys, and you got to read this one carefully. Best answer here, guys, is A. You want a more collaborative refinement sessions with all the stakeholders. That way everybody understands everything. Ask the state to clarify in writing. They don't necessarily need to do it in writing. Instruct the team to add more documentations. This eliminates this. Agile doesn't want you to do pure documentation. I like the part about user stories, but just added more documentation. You don't want to limit their involvement. In fact, we need more of their involvement in here, making A better answer than C or D. Question. An Agile team has been receiving inconsistent feedback from stakeholders, leading to misunderstanding about what features should be included and when they are considered complete. What should the PM do to align the team and stakeholders around a common understanding? Create a communication management plan to regulate stakeholder input. Establish a shared vision, utilizing tools like agile modeling, personas, definition of done. Extend the iteration length to allow more time for clarification. Allow each team member to interpret stakeholder needs independently. Best answer here, guys, is going to be B. That is correct. So whether we're, one of the main things here is definition of done. We want that shared vision. Communication management plan is using traditional projects, not agile. Extend, you don't extend iterations. Something maybe the team member may want to do, but not you. Allow each team member to interpret stakeholders. No, they need a shared vision. Not everybody has different visions of it. Making B the best answer. Question. An agile project manager notices that team members hesitate to suggest new approaches during retrospectives. The manager wants to foster a more creative and committed team environment. What should the PM do first? Establish a safe environment for experimentation and disagreement. Begin tracking all suggested improvements on a visible backlog. Assign each team member a turn to propose a new idea in each retrospective. Organize mandatory brainstorming session during each sprint review. Best answer here, guys. Notice, team member, they hesitate to do new things. You know why? Because they might be prosecuted, and you don't want prosecution. You want them to experiment. We welcome experimentation. Experimentation is good, and if they know they're not going to be prosecuted because you built a safe environment, it's part of our agile leadership, they're more than likely to do it. You just don't want to begin tracking all suggested on a visible log. Make that safe environment. Let them try it. You don't need to just put it in a log. And you just don't want each team member a turn. That means one turn people get. Don't make anything mandatory. Make an A the best answer. Question. During a sprint review, a stakeholder asks why the team is seeking feedback on a partially completed product. How should the project manager explain the purpose of this? To verify completion of the sprint backlog, formally close the sprint. To gather input before the full product is built, using complete increments to refine direction. To validate the business case before continuing development of remaining backlog items. To demonstrate the team's productivity and ensure no backlog items are missed. Why do we seek feedback on partially completed items? Because we want to make sure we're doing it right. We want to make sure we're heading in the right direction. We don't want to make sure we're heading in the wrong direction. It's not just done to close the sprint. You can't close, right? Formally close the sprint. There's no really such thing as formally closing the sprint. To validate the business case before continued development of remaining, it partially completed work may or may not validate the completed business case yet because it's partially completed. But we want to make sure we're just going in the right direction. To demonstrate the productivity, well, we just don't show how great the team is. We're doing it to see if we're heading in the right direction for the customer. It can be best answer. Question. A business representative working with an extreme programming team is actively involved in defining requirements, prioritizing features, and ensuring the project delivers value. What role is this person? So this person in the extreme programming is called the customer. The customer in Scrum we call it more like the product owner. So is the customer, not the programmer or the tester. Programmers and customers, people that develop, people that test the software. The coach is the agile PM. This is the customer. Question. A new team member asks for clarification on the primary artifacts used in Scrum. What should the project manager explain as the key artifacts the team used to plan, track, and deliver work during the sprint? Burn-up charts, working agreement, scope statement, release plan, team charter, status report, product backlog, sprint backlog, product increment. Lesson learned, register, traceability matrix, and quality report. Now, some of these here are straight up traditional projects, and some of them are really pure agile. So, scope statement is traditional. Status report, release. Although team charter and release planning are part of agile, status report not so much, but this is all agile. And traceability matrix, quality reports, those are all going to be in traditional. You can see the best answer. Question. During a project kickoff, the team realizes that strict adherence to a single agile methodology will not meet stakeholders' expectation due to compliance and documentation needs. They decide to integrate agile delivery with traditional project control to satisfy flexibility. What agile concept is this? Retrospective feedback, servant leadership, agile model, and process tailoring. So this falls under the branch of process tailoring. In other words, you're customizing the approach to best meet the needs of the project and business. There's different kinds of agile models out there, but it's not about the agile approach. This is different. This is not about leading the team. This is just about choosing a methodology. And retrospective is gaining feedback on what happened in previous sprint. This is a methodology question versus any of those. Make indeed the best answer. Question. A team is using an agile method that emphasizes software development best practices, such as continuous feedback, simplicity, and frequent code delivery. The project manager supports work prioritization, but the development team focuses heavily on technical practices like test-driven development and peer programming. What agile method is this? It should be a giveaway because notice, test-driven development and peer programming is part of extreme programming. Not Kanban, not Lean. Scaled Agile is more like Scrum. So the best answer here is A. Question. A team is about to begin a complex high-risk project. To proactively prepare for challenges, the project manager organizes a meeting where the team imagines the project has failed, discusses potential causes, and identifies actions that could prevent those failures. What practice is the team applying? Root cause analysis, lessons learned sessions, risk-adjusted backlog planning, or pre-mortem analysis, which is what that is. So in this one here, you're looking at, hey, you're trying to understand what can cause the project to fail before it even starts, before the sprint starts. And that's what your pre-mortems are all about. Root cause analysis looks for why something would fail, but the root cause of something in particular, not just the entire project. It's not a lesson learned session. They're imagining. Risk-adjusted backlog, this is readjusting the backlog for risk. This is just looking at why something may fail, which is basically the definition there of pre-mortems.